Hello and welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA, and this is our special 5th annual Friendsgiving episode. So for however long this podcast goes on for, God knows how much Jackson is going to have wrestled with it over the last 12 hours to cut it down, to try to get us under control. There's like all kinds of voices from all over the country. Part of this podcast I did in Omaha. Part of it I did here in LA. Part of the podcast Bontemps did in Miami. Part of the podcast he did in New York. MacMahon is getting on a flight soon to go somewhere, probably someplace he could drive. It's going to be a terrific opportunity for you to enjoy a lot of NBA talk. And I'm just going to say at some point in this podcast, we talk about ice. That's where we're going, you know, in various things over Thanksgiving. So
ice is in frozen water, nothing too controversial.
That's right. So now we're going to flip the switch here and head to the normal podcast. But thank you so much for joining us for Friendsgiving, and enjoy your travels. And if you're not going anywhere, enjoy your Thanksgiving. Joining us from New York City, but just off the plane from Miami, where he saw the Heat beat the Dallas Mavericks on Monday night, is Tim Bontemps.
Hello, everybody.
Joining us from Dallas, Texas, where he just got back from the tire store, is Bam MacMahon.
Howdy, partners. An unplanned visit. A little bit light in the wallet. Certainly willing to accept any sponsorship deals that might come my way because I'm broke again.
Nothing like unexpected expense at the holidays to brighten your spirit. Bontemps, you saw the Heat win their 5th consecutive game.
Yep.
And Tyler Hero's season debut, he had 28 points, I believe, playing within the new offense. And I got to say that the fact that the Heat are 12-6, despite Hero missing the first 6 weeks of the season, whatever, 6 weeks, despite Bam Adebayo being out with a toe injury, even Norm Powell missed this game. But just, you know, general in and out of that they've had, like, considering that this team was, you know, not exactly sure what their identity was going to be after trading Jimmy Butler last February. I don't know where they're going to end the season. I don't know where they're going to be at Christmas, but I know right now the Miami Heat are high achieving. I won't say overachieving because that undersells them. But this is what the Heat do. They typically make the best of what they have, and the Heat are one of the early season success stories. Probably not getting the attention they deserve because Detroit and even Toronto have done it in the East, but the Heat are an Eastern Conference success story right now.
Your nickname for Spo has long been the Mechanic, right? Am I remembering that correctly?
That's right. Nobody else calls him that, but I do.
It's I like it though, and I think it does fit because he does like to tinker and try different things. And you know, he's talked about it a couple times, but he said it pretty explicitly before the game yesterday that when they got embarrassed in that first round series by Cavs corner, and I might be misquoting him slightly, but I believe he said it was as embarrassing a moment as he's ever had in his career, the way game 4 of that series ended, where I think they lost by more than 50.
I was there for that. It was an elimination game, and I've never seen a team lay down like I saw them lay down.
I mean, they clearly went to the drawing board, back to the drawing board, and, you know, he brought in Noah LaRoche. We've talked a lot about, you know, the stuff that he did in Memphis, and, you know, that offense, you know, the spread the floor, don't really run pick and roll, a lot of straight line drive, attacking space offense. It's a really interesting system to use when you don't have a guy to dominate the ball. And this Miami team doesn't really have a guy like that. They've got very good offensive players. You know, Tyler Hero's now back. Norm Powell's a very good offensive player. They've got other guys that can score, but they don't have a Luka Doncic or a Giannis or a Jokic or a Shea, like some guy that you're just going to give the ball for massive usage. So they've leveraged that to having a bunch of pretty good players that can all do different things. And Spo, like he does oftentimes, is finding ways to maximize a lot of those guys. And the result has been we've talked about how fast the league is playing overall. They're playing faster than everybody. And even with some of the injuries they've had, they've been able to withstand that by having 10 or 12 solid players. And that means they have 9 or 10 available on a nightly basis. And they're just running and really pushing the tempo and taking like every guy on the team's pretty much got, it seems, a green light to take the first good look they've got, whether it's to drive to the hoop or to shoot the ball. And having spent a lot of time around Miami last year in the whole Jimmy Butler fiasco, it's remarkable how much happier and like how good the vibes are across the board. And I think the Heat.
Yeah, they were in a year ago now. They were in hell.
It was a miserable situation. They were trying to get out of the Jimmy Butler situation. Jimmy was trying to get out of the Jimmy Butler situation. And they were just stuck in this very awkward dance until they could find a trade that worked. And this year, like the Heat are a championship or bust team. So I think they would be the first to tell you that they're not sitting there saying, yeah, we're going to win the title playing like this, but they're enjoying playing like this. They have a very fun team. They're going to win a lot of regular season games, especially in a very wide open East. And they're going to see what they have and see how far it could take them and then go from there. But from where they were last year to where they are now, it's night and day. And, it's been, I think, it's a really fun brand of basketball to watch. And it's been a really fun opening month for the Heat.
Well, we said going into the season and over the summer, the Heat were kind of in this in-between phase. We all understand the Heat are, big fishermen. Like they get big fish, whether it's the free agency or via trade. They get superstar players down there to South Beach, and they don't have that right now. So they're, and they can take their time and find the right one. They don't have to act in desperation, but they are in this in-between phase. But like you said, Bontemps, they're putting a very fun product out on the floor during this in-between phase. And, with Norm Powell, Hero, and Jaime Jaquez, they've got three guys who can really do some pretty significant damage as offensive creators. Like Jaquez is an early sixth man of the year candidate. Hero stepped right in, put up 24 last night, including the game winner. And then Powell's, we talked about him recently. His numbers are through the roof. And then they've got Khalil Ware. He's a really high upside young guy. I mean, a springy 7-footer who's shooting.
He just had 20 and 18 last night.
Yeah, and he's shooting
Dallas.
3 in the high 30s. He's a great lob finisher, very intriguing player. And, then they've also done well on like the reclamation market. Davion Mitchell is having a hell of a year. He's always been a guy who's been a pit bull defensively. He was just, frankly, such a bad offensive player that it was hard to get him on the floor.
It was a slick trade they made I think it was on deadline day last year. Basically, he was sort of an odd man out in Toronto, and I don't even remember what they sent for him. Bontemps.
Well, if you remember, what happened with that trade was they had a deal to get out of the tax, and the deal fell apart, and they wound up having to maneuver things around, and they wound up with Davion Mitchell. And I remember talking to the Heat, and they essentially were a Davion Mitchell into the tax. And
that's right.
At the time, everyone assumed they were going to get out of the tax, and they didn't. And they basically said, yeah, look, we have been intrigued by Davion Mitchell for a long time, and it's worth us to take the swing and see how he fits. And, he's been around a long time, but he's still only 27. Like he's not that old, and he's just getting into his prime years in the league. And, as we've seen, Sacramento is not always the best place to foster a career. And he's now landed in a great
eloquently said.
Well, but he's now landed in a great spot where he's able to play a role. And again, it's another example of Eric Spoelstra really maximizing all of these different guys. Like Jaime Jaquez had a great rookie year. Last year was a disaster. He had injuries, didn't play well. But like now, his confidence is back. He's a really good straight line driver. This offense is set up for him to just attack.
Yeah.
And even last night, didn't matter who was guarding him. Like he was trying to go at anybody who was in front of him. And
he gets downhill and bounces off of people. And by the way,
sure does.
Davion Mitchell's built like a, like a short yardage running back.
Yep.
But he's showing more playmaking than I think anybody would have anticipated. He's 8th in the league in assists at 7.5 per game, and his assist turnover ratio is 5-1.
Wow.
I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Well, and it was interesting too. Like, obviously it was a big topic yesterday that Tyler Hero was back, and you could see in the game, like Tyler hadn't played basketball in 2 months, right? And you could see in the game, like the ball's popping around and moving around, and Tyler would catch it and have to kind of like think a bit, because he even said after the game he's used to like calling Khalil Ware up for a screen, and he was kind of on the fly having to rewire his brain. And
how soon before he just calls him up anyway?
Well, I mean, the kind of the misnomer with this offense is that like people act like you're not allowed to do pick and rolls in it. Yeah. Like they're gonna run some pick and rolls with Tyler
and they
Hero,
do every game. They run some. They just run less than everybody else.
Yes, but he also I think his game is very well suited to succeed in this offense, where it's he's a guy like you saw in that game last night. He was able to get to his spaces in the lane and get to that floater range where he feels really comfortable getting shots. And I thought the most telling thing about it was hearing Bam Adebayo talk about it. And, we spent a lot of time talking about how miserable things are in Memphis and how unhappy guys are and the way the whole situation sits, right? And they're asking Bam, like, well, how's Tyler gonna handle this? How's he gonna handle, adjusting to this, blah, blah, blah. And Bam was like, how could anybody not have fun playing in this offense? Everybody gets to be aggressive. Everybody gets to have the ball. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's interesting. Now, look, I don't think it's a perfect offense. I don't think every team should run it, but Bam is a big time player, multiple time All-Star. Pretty sure he's made All-NBA. He's won gold medals. He's had a lot of success in the league. And he's sitting there saying, yeah, look, Tyler's going to come in and he's going to get the ball and he's going to have success, because everybody does with the way this offense is. And it's really fun to play and it's fun to be part of. And I think it was just emblematic of how different the two situations are in a lot of ways, but also I thought it was emblematic of just how different, like you said, Brian, it is in Miami now compared to what it was a year ago, when it was just like a funeral every day waiting for the Jimmy thing to end.
And we haven't even mentioned that. I don't know if it's certainly it wasn't the biggest move of the summer, because that's Durant, but and maybe not even the most impactful, but the Norm Powell trade, to this point has been extremely important. Yeah. And, Norm Powell, he really, really, really wanted to be an all-star last year. In fact, he came on to the Hoop Collective in an effort to, he knows that
get some votes.
They know people in the league, listen to the podcast. I don't know what to say. And he
thought you had more power than you really do.
I guess so. I guess so. Evan Mobley wanted the defensive player of the year. That got achieved, but Zubac wanted it too, and he didn't. Anyway,
well, Zubac wanted All NBA, and you were campaigning. But anyways, let's get back to Norm Powell.
Anyway, I will say that just to point out that on Wednesday night in Group C in the Eastern Conference NBA Cup, you should be aware that the Heat and Bucks are playing, and the winner of that is probably going to win the group. And not only that, but Giannis might be back for that game. So
we got to questionable this evening, Tuesday evening. Yeah, so that would seem to be a pretty good sign that he will be on the court on Wednesday.
I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't watch Pistons Celtics on ESPN on Wednesday, but
I would tune into Heat Bucks.
Oh my gosh, what an insult! What an insult!
The Heat. I've just happened to turn on a lot of Heat games this year. Like they're really fun to watch, and obviously with Giannis coming back, I mean it's been a rough 3 games with him out. Their offense has looked about as bad as you would think it was going to look, and if he is able to get back, they have the Heat on Wednesday in the Cup, and they have the Knicks on Friday in the Cup, and I think if they win one of them, what?
I just realized we've got a delightful little pre-Thanksgiving triple header.
That's correct.
Yeah, so you can actually watch Pistons Celtics. I will be at the ESPN. That's a 4:00 tip, or I guess what is that? 5 on
5 Eastern. Yeah,
5 Eastern. Yep. I think in Central.
We haven't had a lot of 5 Eastern tip.
Thunder game, which is our middle game. And then the late night. Who do we got late night here? Oh, Rockets,
Warriors, Thunder. Warriors, Rockets, not Warriors.
Yeah, that's a delightful little triple header. But you want to take it away.
Should you want to tune in at 4:30, you can watch NBA Countdown on ESPN.
A bunch of rich people talking about basketball.
I mean, there's a couple of NBA champions on there. I mean, I'm not one of them, but there's a couple of NBA champions on there. Yeah, well, that's not going to be happening. But yes, there's some good games tomorrow. The Thunder will be on, the Wolves, who we're going to talk about in a minute. And then who doesn't want to see the Rockets Warriors bringing up the nightcap?
Should be fun.
Look, there's no such thing as a devastating loss in November. Let's just be clear.
There are bad losses, though.
It has not been a good couple of days for the Timberwolves. They gave up a 9-point lead in the final minute, or 8-point lead in the final, was it 6, whatever. It was
8-point lead in the final 45 seconds in Phoenix.
Absolutely unacceptable loss. Then they go up to Sacramento. And if there's ever been a bounce back situation, I think they had a couple of days off after the Phoenix game, got to stay in Phoenix. They stayed in Phoenix, enjoyed the weather, I'm sure. Then they, had a practice and they get to come up to Sacramento. This is an ideal bounce back situation. And they were ahead by 10 points late in the fourth quarter. I think with 3 minutes to go, they were ahead by 10. And they allow the Kings, the lowly Kings, to make a 10-0 run to end that game. And I got to say, as I'm discussing, the beginning of the idea of what the trade market may look like, in the NBA, a team that is there's some sellers you can identify, okay, but a team that is emerging as a buyer is the Wolves, coming off of 2 conference finals, high expectations, weak at the guard position, just for various reasons. And a team that, despite having a decent record, has underachieved because they've gone through a soft portion of schedule, including, quite frankly, the Suns and Kings. I mean, at worst, you should split that even on the road. And a team that can win for the West, especially when you're in position to win both, should win both games. And so Bontemps, the Wolves, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but the Wolves are not performing in a manner that they need to be performing at this point.
No, they are not. And the tricky part for Minnesota is, like you say, okay, let's just say they decide they want to make a move, right? With the moves they've made prior, especially, not only the Rudy Gobert trade, but also then trading Rob Dillingham, before Rob Dillingham in the draft a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
They literally don't have a tradable first, and their 2032 pick is frozen because they were in the second apron. So they you want to say, this is a prime example. You want to say, hey, Minnesota needs to make a move, needs to get guard help, needs to do this, needs to do that. Okay, are you trading Julius Randle for a guard? Are you trading Jaden McDaniels for a guard? Are you trading Rudy Gobert for a guard? Well, if you trade any of those guys,
very dangerous to trade big for small in the NBA.
Well, just if you trade any of those guys for a guard, it creates all sorts of other problems. Like, people want to say Rudy is, not as good as he was before. Their defense goes off a cliff whenever he's on the bench. Jaden McDaniels is their best, wing defender. He's really the only guy besides Ant you can look at as a true, I think, sort of building block player going forward. Julius Randle's probably their best creator, or maybe him and Ant, and he's their other big time scorer. So you move on from any of those guys who were their 3 big salary players besides Ant, who they're obviously not trading. Those trades all create other problems, and they're also right up against the second apron and have to deal with the financial part while sending out money. It's just really hard to make a big trade.
They wouldn't be able to take on any money. That's absolutely true.
But
or they'd have to take on, they can't add salary. They'd have to move around salary. And it's, it's a very, very, very complicated equation for Tim Connolly, the head of their front office.
I will say this,
solve.
and not to jump in front of you, MacMahon, I'm sorry, but part of the reason why people in the league are talking about them is because Tim Connolly does do stuff like that.
Yeah.
He wants to make big moves. Last year, they were in the second apron, and they were negotiating with the Suns, who were in the second apron, and they were trying all kinds of different things to get Kevin Durant. Now, ultimately, they weren't able to do that, but this is a team that eventually made the conference finals. Tim Connolly is a guy who swings big, doesn't mind paying and will figure out the rest later. And he's had a fair amount of success in his career doing that. So part of the arithmetic, as I talk to guys, is that if Tim Connolly thinks he needs to make a move, he'll figure out a way to make it. And I know that that's irresponsible to say figure out to make a move, but that's what people say.
Well, and it's been known, and Connolly has understood for a while that point guard was going to be an issue. Mike Conley is a backup at this point in his career. It's been an amazing career. That's no knock on him, but that was the whole point of doing the Rob Dillingham deal, that they paid a steep price, a pick and a swap to be able to get that pick from San Antonio and take Rob Dillingham. It's because they recognized, hey, they needed a point guard of the near future.
And so far, that bet looks like a really bad bet.
And listen, I'm not going to sit here and give up on a guy who's 20 years old, but his numbers this year are not better than his numbers last year. He is still a fringe rotation player who his shooting numbers have gone down. He's shooting in the 30s from the floor. Talking to people around the league, there is a lot of doubt whether he will ever be a real point guard. I hear a lot more of, maybe he can be a bench bucket getter than a true point guard. But point being, that was a big swing that they took a couple drafts ago that is not paying dividends. And as a direct result, there is a glaring hole in this roster. And you see that glaring hole as they, much like they did for a lot of last season, continue to have massive problems closing games. I mean, this is an extreme example, but their clutch offensive numbers are bad, and they get worse the later you go and the tighter it gets.
Well, and the on-off numbers, just to highlight that. Now, these are not always obviously perfect. There's context to these things, but Rob Dillingham's played 15 games, played 163 minutes, so a little over 10 minutes a game. The Wolves' offense is 100 flat when he's on the court, which is the worst in the league, and they have a net rating of negative 9.4. And when he's on the bench, the offense goes up to 120 in 658 minutes, and they have a net rating of 7.9. So they're 17 points better when he's on the bench. And he's on the bench a lot more than he's on the court.
But he is on the bench in those clutch situations. And they're
this is not entirely a Rob Dillingham problem, but it's pretty important context when you look at the state that Minnesota is in, that they didn't have a lot of assets left in the chamber to go get stuff, and they used most of them to make that trade. And it was a big swing trade at the time. Like, if Rob Dillingham was a starter, looked like a really good, if you look like Stephon Castle right now, right?
For sure.
You'd be saying, hey, it's a great move. They've got the young guard to go with Ant going forward, and you'd feel really good about where Minnesota's at. Instead, make that move. Doesn't mean Dillingham can't get better. He's still very young. He's obviously a talented player, but it puts into pretty stark relief that it's an issue they've got to solve. And there's just, like I said, Tim Connolly, like you said, Brian, he gets things done. If he wants to make a move, he'll figure out a way to do it. But it is a really tricky puzzle to try to figure that out when almost any move you make has to involve trading away probably a key piece.
Well, and that's it. There's certainly the possibility that there could be one or more recent all-star point guards on the market before the deadline who are considered distressed assets, I would say. But that's even true. In that case, just to make the salary work, you'd have to give up a very important player if you're the Timberwolves. So it's a tough spot to be in.
Well, good news. I have good news. They play at Oklahoma City on ESPN on Wednesday.
Well, probably won't have to worry about protecting a late lead. That's
17-1, in case you haven't heard.
Listen, can they make Shea play the fourth quarter? Tune in to find out.
Hey, that's the first order of business when you team with Oklahoma City is make them play the fourth quarter. I'm not kidding.
Can I ask a resident Thunder expert a question before we change topics?
Go ahead, Wendy.
We have been waiting for Jalen Williams to play. He now is not All-NBA eligible.
Yeah.
Do we have any sense of when he's going to be ready to go?
I actually thought it was going to be last week, and that obviously didn't happen. I am boarding a flight and heading up there tomorrow. If I have any further information after that trip, I'll let you know. Obviously, he was hoping to be much earlier. Then he had to go get that screw removed. And
are you going to Rich's for Thanksgiving dinner?
No. I'm heading back home for Thanksgiving dinner and then heading on out to L.A. I think I'll see you in L.A.
That's a shame. Oh, no, I won't be here when you're here. I refuse it. That's absolutely not going to be on the menu.
We'll see. Be there for a while.
Okay, now we welcome in from Sacramento, California, his first Friendsgiving appearance. It's Anthony Slater. What's up, Slater?
I thought you just brought me on to talk about the scorching hot Sacramento Kings.
They gave it to the Timberwolves the other night. The Timberwolves what was it, a 9-point game with or maybe a 10-point game?
They had a 10-0 run in the last 125 or something like that.
It's the latest absolutely absurd loss of the season for the Timberwolves. I mean, they just blew a 8-point lead in 49 seconds to Phoenix the other night. They had the game there. They lost to the Lakers at home earlier this year when Austin Reeves went insane and hit the buzzer beater with no Luka, no LeBron. Just not very impressive from a team that wants to be making a deep playoff run again.
You know, what's funny about that, though, so I had a choice last night, go to Warriors Jazz or Kings Timberwolves. I went to the Warriors game, obviously. The company would probably prefer I mostly do that. But the Kings Timberwolves game was more interesting. And when I get out of the arena quick enough on nights that the Kings win, which is a very big qualifier here because hasn't been too many, on my way back home, I drive past the arena. Beam was lit last night. First time this season.
How far out from Sacramento can you see the Beam?
Pretty good. Maybe 10, 15 miles, maybe. So the second year they had the Beam, which was, the first year was actually the good year of the Beam, but the second year they really improved the bulbage, wattage, whatever you want to say, and it became way more bulbage. Bulbage, new word.
That's Oklahoma State right there.
Yes. It sure is. That Oklahoma State education, baby.
Well, I will say before we talk about the Warriors, you saw Ace Bailey. A lot of these guys in this class. These 25 class are having really great starts. Ace Bailey started a little slower, but Ace Bailey had the best game of his young career, 21 points. I know the Jazz lost. That's actually, don't tell anybody, but it's not the end of the world if Ace Bailey plays well and the Jazz lose. They don't want to say that out loud. I'll say it for him. But what do you think of Ace Bailey? I don't know if it's the first time you saw him. I got to see him last week in L.A., but what do you think?
It was the first time. He's playing a more controlled brand of basketball than I think we all probably predicted. We thought it was going to be extremely low efficiency, just get to the mid-range 19.
Well, that's where a lot of rookies play low efficiency, but yeah.
Yeah. But it's not super losing basketball, the type of stuff he's doing, which is, is encouraging, I think, long term. I think you could still tell, even on plays last night, particularly on the defensive end, he's still, a teenager. He's kind of getting thrown around a little bit by adults out there. So he's got a while to go to be a really sturdy, wing in the league, but you can kind of see, what it's molding into. And I would say you guys would probably agree it's been a more encouraging start than maybe we all predicted from just a style of play standpoint.
Yeah. When you talk to the folks in Utah, they say he's just really getting started working on his body. They haven't even really introduced a lot of that strength building stuff yet because they wanted to get him acclimated and everything like that. So they believe he will add a lot of strength, which is, again, not exactly a hot take when you're dealing with a teenager. But they are very excited about him. And I know that, obviously Cooper Flagg is a budding potential star. The Spurs are raving about Dylan Harper. Obviously the 76ers are over the moon about VJ Edgecombe. Who got taken right in front of him, Bontemps? Who am I forgetting?
Con Knueppel from Charlotte.
Con Knueppel right now. Con Knueppel, I think, took over from Cooper Flagg in some of the books. Is odds-on favorite for him for a rookie of the year.
That will not be a good bet if Cooper stays healthy, but especially now that he's not playing point guard anymore. But Con has been awesome and is very good. It's been a very good class all the way through.
And I would say the Jazz, even though Ace Bailey is not been explosive yet. They are pleased. At least that's what they're telling me. Maybe they're not telling me the truth, but I found them believable. Anyway, Slater, did you have a better road trip than the Warriors did? They started out okay. They finished 3-3. They lost 3 in a row coming in, and needed that win over the Jazz to break their losing streak.
Yeah, I actually thought going out on that 6-game trip, if you scripted it out, 3-3 was like reasonable. So they ended it at it just didn't go exactly how I thought it would. Right, the sweep in San Antonio was on the high end. I would say the loss in Orlando was surprise. Maybe you want to say. I mean, that's a tough place to win, but they went for the Orlando
are hot,
one.
buddy.
Yeah, they punted the Miami game, and then they got blown out in Oklahoma City, which caused this mini crisis. The bad loss they've had recently is actually when they got back home. They lost to Portland. Gave up 127. So, that me and Tim have talked about it plenty on the Warrior Stock Report we do, but they're wobblier.
Which you can see on YouTube.
Yeah,
that was not as loud a plug as MacMahon typically gives for his things, but
smooth.
It is a thing that happens.
They're probably more surprisingly shaky than I think a lot of people predicted, but you could see a lot of these flaws entering the season, and I think you start on the interior, and we can get to some of that if you want.
We talked about this on the pod on Monday, where the difference between where the Lakers are and where the Warriors are is the Lakers have taken care of business, and they have won the games that they were supposed to win, even though they've had a relatively easy schedule. Though I did say the Lakers beat the Bucks without Giannis. Giannis played in that game and they won by 1,000. That was a mistake I made on Monday. But
I'm sure no Laker fans mentioned that to you.
Laker fans were very angry. It was just an oversight at a late hour on the East Coast. But they've won. Like we've talked about, the Warriors are 9-9 because they lost to Milwaukee without Giannis in Milwaukee. They lost to the Pacers. One of the 2 wins the Pacers have this season was to a rested Warriors team. They've dropped a couple other games that they should have won. And in the Western Conference, if you're trying to be in the top 6 or top 4, like we just talked about with Minnesota, you can't be kicking away these games you should have in the bag. Like that could be the difference between finishing 4th or 6th or 7th. And for an old team like the Warriors, they can't afford to be finishing 6th or 7th.
They're 22nd in offense.
But that's what I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
So, 19 games, it's been a ton of games. They've had all these back-to-backs. The Rockets still haven't had a back-to-back.
That's crazy.
The Warriors, I think, have had 4 or 5. But the offense, how concerned should they be about that, Slater?
Pretty concerned. I mean, they've recently kind of had a bad defensive patch that, was the talk from Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green is stomped around a little bit upset about some of their defensive effort and some of their bad losses. But, zoom back, 9th ranked defense, 22nd ranked offense. That's the thing they need to correct more. If you look at just the Steph Curry minutes, they're still, a good, productive, like top 10 type offense. It obviously craters when he's off the floor. A lot of that was he's had a sickness. Some of the losses Tim mentioned, he was either, not available for or just not productive in those losses. I think, what did they all summer or even early in the season, we were talking about Al Horford being this signing that was going to open so much up for them. He shot it very poorly from 3 because they've had this condensed schedule. He's missed 5 games because he's not playing both sides of back-to-backs. And now red alarm. I mean, you guys dealt with the LeBron stuff. He's got sciatica right now. They just announced him out at least a week with a sciatic nerve irritation. Yes. I
didn't see that update.
That's not good for one of the oldest players in the league. It's not good.
Yeah.
And they're not. Players are playing longer, Bontemps, but I cannot remember there being 2 sciatica diagnoses.
Well, these are 2 of the 3 oldest guys in the league. I believe that's the case. I think Gal's 3rd behind Chris Paul and LeBron, and so if you got guys playing heavy minutes at 40 and 41, well, this is what's going to happen.
Which was anybody that was trying to say, hey, I'm not sure about this team this season over 82. This is why I was among the people saying this, where Al Horford now is out, I'd say indefinitely. They said reevaluate in a week with a sciatic nerve issue. Draymond Green is playing center a ton, and he's facing Klingon the other night, 7'3", comes down on his foot has a very painful foot sprain. I talked to him in the locker room yesterday. He misses yesterday's game. He wants to play Wednesday. I compared it to that. Remember when Marcus Smart fell on Steph's foot? This would have been in the title season. He missed a month. I kind of tried to compare that with Draymond. Draymond was saying, Steph tore something. Draymond didn't do that, but it was painful. I mean, he was putting on his shoe in the locker as I was talking to him, and you could tell he's grimacing a little bit. He's trying to play Wednesday, but here's the problem for the Warriors. No Horford. Draymond coming back to face the Rockets on ESPN tomorrow night. Sengun, Steven Adams, the 40% offensive rebound rate team. The Thunder's coming in next Tuesday with Chet and Hartenstein. And Draymond's at this point, starting to get the accumulated bumps and bruises. So then you look at who's behind them, Quentin Post, Trace Jackson Davis. They've been nice finds in the second round, but that's not,
Yeah, I had an executive tell me today, he said, I know this isn't always right because, sometimes they surprise you, but he goes, I typically bet against. Now, he didn't say bet against. Let me take that back. He typically expects the older teams, the oldest teams in the league to struggle, to always underachieve. And it's easy for him to say that now with the Clippers, wheezing and this team struggling a little bit. But
we're in a league where teams are playing faster than they have in decades, and the pace of play is way high. The teams with depth are the teams that are winning right now, right? The Thunder, the Pistons have obviously defied that a little bit because they've had some injuries, but they're a young team. They don't, maybe not super deep, but they are very young and athletic and playing fast. Toronto is winning with depth. Miami is winning with depth. Houston is winning with a decent amount of depth. You go through, and a lot of these teams are younger and deeper. And whether it's the Sixers last year, the Warriors this year, the Clippers this year, it seems like the Knicks and Cavs. Cavs obviously have some injury-prone players with depth, but like you have injury-prone players and you're having to play a faster, more demanding style, there's a better chance for guys to get banged up. And, we've seen that start to accumulate already in this opening month of the season. And, it's where if you're the Warriors, like, yeah, this has been their hardest part of their schedule. They've had all these back-to-backs. All these things are true, but now you're dealing with, pushing 40 Al Horford with a back issue, mid-30s Draymond, who you don't already want to be playing a ton of center minutes, now having to play extra center minutes, now having to deal with the wear and tear of that.
Against a big league. The league's getting bigger, too.
And the Warriors are not big.
Yeah. No, they're not. If you were to take the glass half full approach to them right now, it would be Steph Curry still looks like Steph Curry at his best, right? The San Antonio game's a great example.
He's got over 30 in 5 of his last 6 games. He's averaging 35 in his last 6.
So if you were to get him healthy in a playoff series right now, you still would feel good about you have like full throttle Steph Curry. And I would say full throttle Jimmy Butler. He's looked really good, I think, this season, when he's needed to turn it up, playing his controlled style of play. So your top 2 still look like, a legitimate top 2. And that's the other part with this team. They were hoping below them, this younger layer of the roster, mid-tier layer of the roster would take a leap enough to, float them along in the 82-game regular season. And that just hasn't happened for various reasons. I think, specifically each player has their own reasons. But that's been probably the bigger problem, because I still think you can look at the main guys, even Draymond, their defensive rating with him on the floor and off shows he's still a monster impact defensive player. But the problem is, again, they're going to be great. I think if healthy in the playoffs, how do they get there?
All right, Mr. Slater, thank you so much for joining us on Friendsgiving, and we look forward to you joining us many years into the future.
I appreciate y'all.
Okay, now joining us from Detroit, it's Vince Goodwill. Welcome to your first annual Friendsgiving, Vince.
It's good to be here with you, Brian. You're a good friend. In the Timbs.
I'm having like warm feelings of nostalgia, because the Pistons, who, in my youth were good, and in my young years, in my 20s, when I was just a a young kid trying to make deadline at the Palace of Auburn Hills.
With a buzz cut.
With the buzz cut. Number 2. Didn't have to worry. Could get it in any city. Then he'd just go in and say number 2. Didn't have to worry.
You can do it yourself. Trust me on that one.
I wouldn't recommend
Pistons
it.
Wednesday night are going for a team record. Their 14th win on ESPN against the Celtics, going for their longest winning streak ever. And the other two times they won 13 games. One was in 03-04, my first year covering the NBA when they won the title. And the other one was, I think, in 89-90.
Huh.
I believe have they not won 14 in a row already? I thought they were 1 and 2, right?
No, I think they're 13.
Was it 13?
It's 13. It's that 90 team went 25-1. They won 12 straight, lost a game, and then won 13 straight.
Pretty good.
So, yeah,
pretty good.
Yeah, that's
these guys ain't that. These guys aren't that. It's a little different.
Check yourself. They're 15-2. So you've had some interesting reports. So, okay. As we do in the media, people sort of had the Pistons sort of in the middle of the pack. Oh, but they were a nice story last year. And now, like, nobody had them 15-2. I mean, maybe they did. I mean, if Cade wants to say he had himself 15-2, who am I to say? But now that they're 15-2, folks like us in the media are like, all right, well, maybe they're going to win the East this year, and maybe they could use expiring contracts and stuff to upgrade their roster. So you've had some reporting about this, Vince. You have lived in Detroit and covered the Pistons for a long time. What do you think the Pistons' plan is as they approach what is a new reality of them being the number 1 team in the East?
This is a whole new, different type of reality for Tom Gores. Like 2 years ago this time, he had us jumping on a Zoom like on Christmas Eve to apologize for a soon-to-be 28-game losing streak. So to say that this is new territory is very understating. I think this, though. I do believe that ownership at least has an appetite if they are willing. If the front office is willing to go for it, the ownership has been like, oh yeah, we can go. Let's go get Blake Griffin. Remember that deal was a blockbuster deal in 2017 because they thought they had finally gotten a star and Stan Van Gundy and everything else. And Blake was signed to a long-term deal with the Clippers and everything. So they haven't been afraid of making big moves. I think they have learned. Now you have to be a little more prudent. But when you look at the treasure trove of young players, not just Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey is back. Asar Thompson is playing well. Ron Holland. Don't forget, Jalen Duren's going to be up for a big-time extension that you have to budget for. So the question you have to ask yourself is, do we have the appetite to be able to handle all of our young players, similar to Oklahoma City, but not quite like Oklahoma City? Or do we want to, let's say, see what it costs for Lauri Markkanen, which I think the starting point for that would be Asar Thompson, and the answer for that from Detroit's standpoint is no.
Well,
but they don't. But no. They're not.
No, not that. But I'm saying, you mentioned Lauri Markkanen. There are other potential targets. I think it would actually probably cost less in terms of what you've got to give up to get Anthony Davis, because, as Bontemps wants to chime in, it will cost more in terms of his salary.
That is true.
But I'm sure Bontemps is probably not a huge fan of Anthony Davis coming to a contender and helping a contender. Like, I
actually think the Anthony Davis fit with Detroit is okay. I mean, I think, I think it depends on what the Pistons are trying to do, right? But I think, like you were saying, Vinny, Tom Gores has never been afraid to spend money. And I think if you talk to people either in past regimes or the current one, like, resources are never really a question. And like, he's always back. I mean, look, he just spent $80 million to go get Monty Williams, right? Like you mentioned the Blake Griffin deal. Like he's proven he's well, but I mean it like in all sincerity. Yeah. It's not like this is a market where you go in there and go, well, are they going to be willing to pay the tax? Like he's going to pay the tax. I think, like you said, the question is, how do you allocate your resources? And I do think the AD thing, I think, is interesting to me if they do end up looking at trying to upgrade. Because, like we've talked about, if you're trading for Lauri Markkanen or, say, Jaren Jackson Jr. becomes available, or one of these other long-term, mid-20 to late 20s guys in the range we're talking about, right? Memphis, Utah, they're going to be asking for a ton. Like, as we've laid out, if Dallas ends up trading Anthony Davis, the market's not going to be great. So you might be able to get a guy like Anthony Davis for a relatively small current price. And yes, you have the next 2 years at a big number, but you're still just gradually working into paying Asar Thompson, paying Ron Holland, paying Jalen Duren, paying Jaden Ivey. And you might be able to massage that and make that work. And also, by the way, get a really good player and have a chance in a, like, I would argue, as wide open a conference as we've ever seen to really make a run if you're Detroit with the group they have.
I don't want to offend people in Memphis. I've got a lot of friends there. I'm always well received and very popular with their fan base. But I got to tell you, you said Jaren Jackson Jr. and my heart skipped a beat. Whew, Michigan State, Jaren Jackson Jr. on that Pistons team. Oh, man. That's something. You could talk me into the Pistons maybe throwing a bunch of stuff in the pot there now. But listen, just signed a contract with the Grizzlies. You know, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves on that one. I just got a little excited.
I'm a little weary on that one just because when you look at the one hole that this team does have, I don't think it's defensively, right? You're talking about a top 3, top 4 team in defensive efficiency. When you got Jalen Duren defending the rim, Isaiah Stewart defending the rim, I feel like you're short up there. They're not one of the top 10 teams at 3-point shooting. Like when they've gotten in trouble this year, and they haven't gotten in a lot of trouble, when they've gotten in trouble this year in short stretches, it's because they don't have enough space to make shots or they don't have enough space for Cade Cunningham to move. Now, granted, some of that could be the injuries. Tobias Harris has missed time. Jaden Ivey just got back on the floor. So I think you have to be very careful about not seeing it through before adding and making the big splash. Like part of people there want to see all of this marinate before going all in, because once you go all in, the clock starts ticking on JB Bickerstaff. The clock starts ticking on Trajan Langdon. You can afford to let your young players, and Tim talks about this all the time about, it sounds like pocket watching, but the Pistons are in a very advantageous position financially right now. Even if you have to play your young players, you're still paying them on rookie scale extension prices, not big boy maxes.
Yeah, let's just be. I think if the Pistons do anything, I think unless you're getting one of the MVP candidates, okay, I don't think you're going to be able to pull Jalen Duren or Asar Thompson out of there. Okay. And so you got to plan on paying them. So, Jalen Duren will be a restricted free agent next summer. He and the Pistons had discussions, this last fall. The word going around the NBA is that, Duren wanted something per year that started with a 3. The Pistons weren't willing to go that high. And in fact, none of the guys who got extensions this fall, Bontemps, who got the most money? It was,
Keegan Murray was like 27, 28.
Right.
And I would say universally around the league, that was seen as an ask that didn't really make a lot of sense. For Detroit
if I'm advising Jalen Duren, I would say stick with that price, buddy.
Okay.
The price ain't coming down based on what he's done.
Well, he's come out and played great, which is a great problem for the Pistons to have.
Okay, so we'll see. Well, he has to finish it off and all this stuff, but, that's not going to be cheap. Cade Cunningham hit Supermax or hit the Rose provision, whatever you want to call it. His contract is now starting next year is over $50 million going forward a year. Congratulations to him. He has earned it. And then you got Asar Thompson, who has 1 year left after this year, and then you're going to have to pay him. Now, I don't know what that price will be, but it's not going to be $11 million a year, which is what he's at. So when you're like, now look, if you're the Pistons and you think you can win the championship this year, or you could have a shot at it this year, Bontemps, what's the Daryl Morey sort of
5% rule?
Yeah.
If they think they're 5%,
how would he know?
Well, I like the concept, even if it's,
I'm just joking. It was just out there. I'm sorry.
Anyway, I'm just saying this, like
the 95 bit him a lot.
Yeah, well, the 95 is 95. While everyone's trying to put a player on the Pistons roster, keep in mind, whether that guy makes $50 million or in the case of Anthony Davis makes $60 million in a year or two. Just keep in mind the Pistons got to make sure they take care of the guys that they put them together to do this. Now, I don't think he's never claimed this, but the Masai Ujiri rule that I know that I've talked to Masai about, the lesson that he learned as he tried to build contenders is if you're going to win it, you got to absolutely do everything you can to maximize the talent. So, the Masai Ujiri rule is you go get that player. Then you got the Sam Presti rule, which is I don't need to necessarily get that player. Just because you say that I need another player, I think my team might be good enough. And Sam Presti didn't go out and do that, although they went out and got Isaiah Hartenstein.
I was going to say, they went and got Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein, and then they won. They didn't get a superstar, but they got guys that fit the exact holes
what you're talking about is and this is what I'm saying. You're talking, not you specifically, but when you're talking about Anthony Davis, Lauri Markkanen, those are all-star level players.
Well, and Vinny, you're our resident Detroit guy. Looking at the Pistons, the thing that Vinny's always going to be our resident Detroit guy. He will say that. The thing that I think Detroit needs more than even necessarily one of these bigs is, like you hinted at it before, but it's just a flat out second scoring option next to Cade. And I would almost say, ironically, I know he's hurt right now, but I think the guy on the Mavs that if he became available, I think would be a way better fit for the Pistons would be to get Kyrie Irving and put him next to Cade Cunningham. I'm not saying Kyrie's getting traded, but to me, I think that if they this, it's sort of the discussion we had all last year with Oklahoma City, where the question was Jalen Williams, who had a rough playoff series against Dallas 2 years ago, going to be able to step up when it was required in the playoffs? Now, he obviously was awesome in the playoffs, had the 40-piece in the finals, helped them win the title. But if you typically look at these teams, you need to have two perimeter scorers. They've obviously got Cade. Jalen Duren has been a 20-point-a-game guy in the paint, but he's doing that on sort of, workman-like stuff. You're not going to have him as a real second option, I don't think, in the playoffs. So, whatever they end up doing, if they do make a swing in the trade market, I think that's the weakness that I think they have to address, is to get a guy to go with Cade so it's not all on Cade to try to do it in the playoffs against big-time opponents.
Well, and Vinny, where are they on Ivy? Are they holding out hope that Jaden Ivey can prove himself in that role now that he's back?
That's the thing, Tim, is that Jaden Ivey is still their guy. Trajan Langdon did the smartest thing that I think any GM could have come in and done after a team won just 14 games. Mm-hmm. He didn't look at these guys and say, hey, you're a bunch of losers. I'm going to trade you off because the juju is bad. He just surrounded them with the veterans and said, hey, let's just see. Remember, these aren't like great star level veterans. It's stable. Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley. And then the young guys got to grow on their own. So there's nothing.
Malik Beasley, yes. Go on.
Yes, and Beasley. But there's nothing that leads me to think that they're not going to give Jaden Ivey, who shot 43% last year on catch and shoot threes on small volume, to see if he's the guy that can create his own shot. To me, it's less about what you can do with Cade. It's more about what you can do without Cade, to be less Cade dependent. I mean, to have a guy who doesn't have to eat off of Cade Cunningham, a name that intrigues me. And I haven't talked about this with the Pistons, but I know that this guy is starting to get out there a little bit. We're looking at these big names, Kyrie or Anthony Davis or Lauri Markkanen. What about a guy like Kobe White in Chicago on an affordable contract? And Chicago is starting to sniff around just a little bit. And it's hard to make a trade in the division. It's hard to make a trade up I-94. It's hard to make a trade with two hated rivals like that. At least they used to be. But I think it's those sort of moves around the fringes that
Kobe White would be awesome for the Pistons.
Exactly.
Not to interrupt, but he would be great.
And here's the other thing for me, and I'm a big history guy, modern NBA history. So, 40 years. There has never, or there's been one team in the history that I can think of that went from not winning a single playoff series to winning the championship, or at least getting to the finals the very next year. And that was the 07-08 Celtics, who went from being historically bad to getting Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett on draft night. Even Oklahoma City last year, they had the experience of winning a playoff series and then getting to a high-level second-round series against Dallas the next year. So I don't think there's any rush on these guys saying, we got to get to the finals now. I don't think think they're afraid of Boston with Jason Tatum down the line. I think they're trying to build a sustainable model of something that if we can contend right now, cool. But let's just see how this thing simmers in the meantime.
Well, and when you mentioned the Thunder, and I think there is a comparison here in the sense of went through a rebuild, bunch of homegrown talent that is blossoming. Do you speed things up with a superstar? How much do you factor in the future payroll? And part of Presti's calculus there was like, hey, let's see what we've got. Let's see if we've got the star core already in place. Let's give these guys a chance. And obviously they proved that they did. I think you can also look at the Rockets, and the one thing the Rockets did not want to do was take a big swing at a star that would shorten their runway. You know, they weren't going to give up what they considered to be their potential star foundation. Look, as much lip service as they gave us, clearly Jalen Green wasn't part of that. They managed to kind of make a have your cake and eat it too move with KD, where they got that proven veteran star, and they got him to take a little bit less on an extension. And they got to do it without giving up anything that they felt was going to shorten their runway as a contender. So, you know,
the Herschel Walker deal is up. Like, I hope people understand what I'm trying to say when I say, like, nope, or Rudy Gobert. How about that? The Herschel Walker deal.
I'm in Dallas. Reference. People around here understand the Herschel Walker trade.
I got it. I got you.
People under 40 do not, though. So I do think you should explain it.
That's why I said Rudy Gobert. Like the days of giving, or Mikal Bridges, right? The days of giving all your players and all your picks for one guy in today's salary cap climate, second apron, climate, you got to be able to maintain your picks, and you got to be able to hit on your picks, especially if you're not like the Lakers or not even the Knicks. The Lakers are the only team that can afford to not hit on their picks and wind up having Luka Doncic fall into their lap, or have LeBron James fall into their lap. Everybody else has to be smart and strategic about this. So you're not, even if you trade for Lowry Markkanen, Danny Ainge ain't getting no 5 picks and 4 players and all that.
Challenge accepted.
That ain't happening.
No, I would agree with you. No, we're at the era where the pace is faster and the injuries are up. Everybody needs depth right now. The teams that are doing really well are teams that have depth. All right, Vince, thank you so much for coming and joining us on Friendsgiving.
Wendy,
I wish you respectful luck on Saturday afternoon.
You beat me to it. I don't wish you guys any luck at all. I just hope that our friendship can stand the test of whatever's going to happen on Saturday.
So Vince is a Michigan guy. I'm an Ohio State fan, and it's been a rough decade, but we persevere. My whole childhood was John Cooper, Vince. I mean, I can take it. I can take it.
Hello, right. Heisman.
Ryan's always happy when he's grumpy anyway, so a Wasu loss is always something he can revel in, even though he is mad about it. So it'll be all right either way.
Okay, now joining us, and I'm not sure I've ever thought I would say this, but just off the courthouse steps in Brooklyn, New York, our California girl, Ramona Shelburne.
I've been to courthouses before, Brian. I am not a lawyer, but I can play one on TV sometimes. And I do know how to read a court document if I take my time with it and don't get distracted. But this was the first time I went to a real criminal proceeding. I've been to a lot of civil cases in my day, but look, I got a real credential. Look at this. It says U.S. District.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like I'm on, that's pretty good.
I will say this. In the past, you and I have reviewed Bus family court documents.
Oh yeah. We got a copy of the trust. Yeah, that was,
which is now dissolved, right? Like,
no, I think there's still a trust. Actually, I have a little. You know what? Before we get into today's proceedings, let me go back to the Bus family sale.
Yeah.
Okay.
How's Thanksgiving dinner at the Bus house this week?
Well, there was a time. This is a little story time with Momo. Sorry. I have been in a position in my career where I think I know all 6 Bus kids pretty well. I don't know the one who came out of nowhere. There was a
Sean Bus.
Yeah, I don't know. That was the one who is that his last name even?
Well, Sean Bus was one of the people who was fired this week.
Not Sean. Joey and Jesse.
Well, Sean Buss was fired too. Their half brother, who was apparently in the scouting department, which I did not know.
I didn't know that either.
They shared the same mother. I could be wrong about this. The way Dave McMenamin told it to me, because he reported that someone named Sean Buss was fired. I did not know.
I don't know Sean Buss.
But anyway, go ahead.
I know a Riley Buss. I know a Janie Buss. I know Joey and Jesse. I know Jim and Johnny and Jeannie and all of them. And anyway, so I think the family trust still exists, and the family trust is the one that actually owns it's somewhere between 15 and 18%. I've always heard 18%, but I haven't seen the document saying it's 18%. So let's just say it's between 15 and 18. They still own those shares. So all 6 kids still have their portion of those shares, because in the sale that went to Mark Walter, they only sold, I think, 48%. So that he got to, they sold 14% of their 66%. So we can do some math. I can't do it in my head. Didn't sleep so much last night. Anyway,
I heard that regardless of the $10 billion figure, I heard each Buss child got over 900. When everything was factored in, the check that they got a few weeks ago was 900 something million.
Not bad.
That's what I heard. It's
not bad. Yeah. But I will say this, there's something I think we could correct the record on a little bit. Initially a lot of the thought was maybe Joey and Jesse were fired because they voted against the sale. There was a vote, and I think several of us reported that it wasn't unanimous. From what I understand, Brian, I think when all the votes were tallied, it was unanimous, that the younger brothers did vote for the sale eventually.
Interesting.
But when the story came out, so the votes were due on a Friday, and I believe the story came on a Wednesday. Okay, so Shams broke this before this is how good Shams is. He breaks it before they even had all the votes counted. Okay, that's how good he is. Okay, but once you got to 4, it was 4.
Right. The pledged votes, maybe that's why Joey and Jesse voted. They knew how it was going to go. But
I think that's what happened. So the story breaks, and I think they, in the interest of family harmony and to send the right message of collaboration,
it didn't work.
I think eventually they voted for it or abstained. So I don't want to say it was unanimous, but I believe that it was, that no one voted against it. I'll say it like that.
Can I say something about Jeannie? She's very, very well liked in the NBA, right? And she's liked in Los Angeles. Maybe not everybody, and maybe people will have, they can look at certain decisions, but she's her Q rating, her respect level, people in the league really like her. She has a very pleasant way about her.
Yeah, if you talk to other owners or people around the league that have nothing to do with Los Angeles, they like dealing with her.
But let me say this about Jeannie Buss. Her last name is Buss.
Mm-hmm.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but she has 5 brothers and sisters, and she's now fired 3 of them.
That's right. Jim got fired, and then Joey and Jesse.
Right. And she sued 2 of them.
Yeah. Well, they deserved. I mean, I shouldn't.
Oh no! Hey, listen, I'm not taking a side.
They were trying to. It was a palace coup. So okay.
No, hey, I'm not, just to be clear, I'm not taking a side. I am just saying that this woman is not afraid to handle what she thinks is business, even if it means firing her brothers. And he has never fired her sister, to my knowledge. Firing her brothers and suing
Jeannie
her
and
brothers.
Janie aren't very good terms. Janie still does work with the Laker Foundation. Yeah.
Okay, so Ramona, I'm just like, and I mean, like, I learned a lot of this through your reporting.
Yeah.
Over the years, don't mess with Jeannie Buss. Is what I'm saying. It's kind of like I feel the same way about Gail Benson. I don't know Gail Benson, the owner of the Pelicans, but she went to court and won a blood feud with her late husband's children for control of the Saints and the Pelicans. And I would just say, do not be very careful messing with Gail. I have seen her go into a battle and emerge with the carcasses behind her. So I would just say, you may, Gail Benson dresses in, I don't want to speculate what kind of clothes she has, but she is like dresses to the nine, she carries around a $10,000 purse and emerges from a $100,000 Mercedes and her hair is always perfect and you think that she's this prim and proper lady, she will brawl. And Jeannie is not that way. Jeannie is a lot more casual. But she will brawl too. And that's what I'm just saying is she's fired 3 of her brothers.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. That's the Joey and Jesse situation. I think a lot of this is, if you're close to the situation, it was not surprising at all that this happened. Okay, I think there has been a distance between the younger brothers and Jeannie for quite some time. I think in one of his interviews, Jesse even said, I haven't spoken to my sister in 5 months.
It was crazy. That was jaw dropping.
Yeah,
it was
like
The Athletic.
This is from what I, that relationship, those 2 relationships, and I would say it's maybe more so Jesse than Joey. Joey, I think, is still, around the offices more and a little more involved. But because they were both fired, we grouped them together. But, I don't think that's been a good relationship for at least the last 2 years. And I don't know if there was any specific thing that degraded that relationship, because if you remember when she fired Jim, and that was part of the larger case where Johnny and Jim had sort of teamed up to try to force Jeannie out as the head of the there's 3 of them, and they started, it was 2 boys and 1 girl, even though she was the head of the board of directors. They had
they were the trustees, right? They were the trustees, and they tried to say, hey, we're the trustees and we're going to outvote you 2-1. And she's like, the hell you are.
Yeah. Well, there was a legal maneuver. Okay. And so it didn't work. She had a better lawyer than they did. And his name was Adam Streisand. He's one of the best trusted attorneys. If you find anybody who's had some estate
the quotes
stuff,
that he gave you, there's a story that you wrote all about this like 8 years ago. He gave you some amazing on the record quotes. He's
a well-known, if you Google Adam Streisand, I think he's worked with Britney Spears. He's done, every major trust case in LA, like Adam, you want him on your team. Okay. So Jeannie had a better lawyer and she won that one, but the younger brother stood with her on that. At that time, It was 4-2 the other way. It was Jeannie, Janie, Joey, and Jesse, and then Jim and Johnny were on one side. And now we've kind of gone to the other side.
She swung around and joined with the older. I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying this. Yeah. I don't know about admiration. I'm just saying, like, this went down. Like, she may have a pleasant way about her and, sort of a pleasant voice, but, there was a reason why, and in that
Jerry
trust
Buss
document,
chose her to be the governor.
That's right. He looked at all 6 of his kids and he said, Jeannie, and multiple times in that document, it said, Jeannie is going to run the business. And, whatever you want to say about, Dr. Buss, he was a businessman too. Yeah, he was a playboy. He messed around. But when it mattered, he kicked Shaq to the curb. Okay?
He did. You're right. He did.
And his daughter,
he traded Shaq for Kobe.
Genes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, and I'll say this, and this is the last we'll say about this part, but there is a famous Kobe Bryant quote about this. Kobe and Jeannie had talked before she made the decision to fire Mitch Kupchak and Jim Buss, and then installed Kobe's former agent, Rob Pelinka. Okay. And they had a conversation, and Kobe, this was the height of Game of Thrones popularity. Right. And Kobe said, you need to be like Daenerys Targaryen, the mother of dragons. Like, you're the mother of dragons right now. And if you watch that show, what Daenerys Targaryen does. Like, she gets on that dragon and the dragon breathes fire and just wipes everybody out. Like, you cannot be afraid to go do that. Like, and at the beginning of that show, you have to be able to swing your sword. Like, if you're going to off somebody, you swing your sword. By the end of it, you got the woman on the dragon taking everyone out. So your point is well taken.
All right.
You know what? I'm sorry. One postscript. It also does answer the question of Mark Walter has put Jeannie Buss has left her in her position, right?
Right.
And I got asked 7 different ways, whose decision was it to fire the brothers? And I will tell you, the answer is it was Jeannie's decision in consultation with everyone else around. Like, she's not going to do that without talking to Mark Walter. Okay, he's going to know. But
only a Buss can fire a Buss. They still are owners of the team, and if they just wanted to leave them on, he obviously had, to use his words to The Athletic, he'd been siloed, and they could have just left him siloed for another decade.
They could have,
but only like people were saying to me, "Is this Rob Pelinka?" I go,
No.
No. Only a bus can fire a bus.
And also, it's
Even
also
now.
the beginning of what we're going to see is a pretty big makeover with the Lakers that's already starting. As we, I had a story last week saying, Farhan Zaidi, who was the GM of the Giants a little while ago, he's a special advisor. It's one of those titles that, if you're special advisor to the owner, that just means he likes you and thinks you're really smart and gives you a bunch of projects, right? So Farhan Zaidi's new project is with the Lakers and the Sparks and all the other sports teams that Mark Walter owns. And Andrew Friedman consults as well. So if you're a Dodger fan, Andrew Friedman's name pretty well. It's a pretty IQ. I think maybe he might have the highest
He's
Q
had
rating.
mild success with the Dodgers.
Yeah,
I don't follow baseball very closely. Yes, and and by the way, I've seen this said 1,000 times. Let me be 1,001. We know that baseball and the NBA are different. We know you can't just buy
they don't have a
players
second apron, et cetera, et cetera.
Defer contracts for 17 years.
And also, let's say this. Neither Andrew Friedman or Farhan Zaidi is trying to run the Lakers. They're not trying to take Rob Pelinka's job. They're happy with the Dodgers. This is more like a big corporate entity, which is called TWG Sports. It's kind of the same way you would see Dave Schaller, our friend in Philadelphia, who with the Sixers, he helps out with the Commanders because Josh Harris owns both of them.
Look, let me just say this. The Lakers are in need of modernization. And modernization is happening.
They're about to get a lot.
Before you go, I do want to talk to you while you're in Brooklyn there, because you went to federal court today because we're filming this on Monday. And you were there for Chauncey and the other 31 defendants in the gambling case. And where this hit home for me about how serious a trouble that Chauncey is in. I mean, obviously you get brought in a federal case. I understand you're in serious trouble. But his bond was his bail was set at $5 million.
Yeah. I was going through all of them and all the 31 defendants. And I did find the highest ones I found were $3 million for a couple of the real guys who were tied to the crime families. There was another guy I found. His last name was Schneiderman. He paid $5 million also. Those are the Chauncey and this other guy had a $5 million bill. But I think that's more a question of means rather than how much the evidence is on you or whatever it is. I think they look at, how much you make. I mean, there's a lot of bonds in here that I'm looking at these documents right in front of me. 100,000, 50,000. I mean, I don't think it's 50, 100,000s. And, there's 200,000s, whatever. But it seems like, I think it's more a question of means, because one of the things the judge said today was about 2/3 of the 31 defendants have public defenders in this case.
Yeah, that would not make me feel good if I was one of the higher up charged people in this, because that sounds like, to me, when I hear there's, if you say there's 2/3 of the 30, let's say there's
20 or something.
20, that sounds like 20 people who have nothing really to lose and only have one thing to bargain with, and that's information. So that would make me not feel good. I would not feel good about this. Did you think that you would ever be in federal court with accused mobsters?
No, it was quite a scene, Brian. I will say this. There were some dudes there I would not want to mess with. There were some guys there I was like, oh, I could see that. Yeah. You kind of read the profiles of what they do for a living or whatever it is, how they describe themselves. But yeah, that was an interesting. There was two defendants who had actually been in prison. They had not been released on bail, and so they got brought in by the federal marshal. And the marshal looks like exactly what you think a federal marshal is going to look like. You don't mess with that guy either. But it was an interesting scene for me because I knew Chauncey pretty well. I worked with him when he was at ESPN.
Yeah,
we've sat in green rooms together in Bristol, Connecticut. He came in and he didn't say anything to anybody when he walked in. He just kept his head down. But when he got into the courtroom, the media's kind of off on one side, and he scanned around. The first look through, he kind of had that, that look where you're not making eye contact. But then he looked around again and we did make eye contact, and I kind of gave him a nod like, hello. And he nodded back. Like he was not afraid to be seen. I don't know if I'm the only person he knew in the gallery, or even in the courtroom. And then Damon Jones came in at one point. Those two, obviously, as you know, you wrote a story on him. Those two were pretty close in their day. They've lived together. During COVID, I think they all lived at Chauncey's house in Colorado. And Damon came in and he walked right by Chauncey. I did not see them make any eye contact or say anything to each other. And Damon has a court-appointed attorney. And so it was a very interesting scene. I also, outside, you walk outside of the courthouse and just in the hallway there, I saw Chauncey and I saw his wife and his 3 daughters were there. We were 2 feet away from each other. I could have shook his hand, but I thought that was inappropriate. So I just kind of nodded at him and I said hello, and he said, "Hi, Ramona." And it was like all kind of normal and except we're in a very abnormal situation. And I thought the hardest part for me to watch was really when his wife and daughter had to come out of the audience to co-sign the bond that he was posting. And so, they had to get up and walk over there and be sworn in by the judge and asked if they knew the conditions if he violates any of the bail conditions and what happens to them. And they both said they did, and then they had to sign it. And I don't know. That was a pretty human moment there.
Yeah, look, guilt or innocence, that'll be determined later. It's tough on a personal level when you know them. I wrote a story on Damon Jones. That published on Monday. Damon is not my friend, but I have known him for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And, when I was reporting on this story, basically about how broke he is, and I was talking to people about how he was always asking for money and everything like that. I mean, it made me sad. I was sad to do that story because, I've been there when Damon's had some of the highest moments of his career.
Yeah.
And so, this is what happens in this business that we're in. We see people at their highest and lowest, but this is obviously a different level. You lose an athletic competition, it can be very, very painful and it can affect your life and all that stuff. But also, I was there the day Damon signed his $16 million contract. I was there the day that he hit the shot that defined his career, a game winner that won a playoff series. I was there in the locker room when they won the championship in 2016 when he was on the Cavs staff and he was smoking a cigar in the locker room.
Yeah.
In Golden State. You were there that night too. And, so anyway, and it's a tough situation, but you've already done some good reporting on this. You've written about the situation in Portland, and I look forward to more of your Ramona style reporting because this is unfortunately going to be a long case.
Yeah, the judge in the case said, I know this, with the amount of data, they said there's a terabyte of data they have to turn over in discovery. One of the lawyers said this could take years, and the judge said, well, my intention is not for it to take years. My intention is for us to be in court by September of next year. September of next year. What do you think, Brian? Chances of that?
Well, I do not think it will take. I would bet more on years than September of next year.
Yeah.
But all right, Ramona, we'll travel safe back to your family for the holiday. On next Friendsgiving, we'll have more fun things to talk about.
We did good last year. We talked about my show last year. That was a good one.
Yes, your show, which was amazing.
Thank you.
On the Clippers. Maybe you'll do a show on this one
day.
Too.
It'll be a very different tone. I don't know. When I went to court for the Clipper case, it was Donald Sterling showed up in his sandals, and it was civil court in LA, and we were all live tweeting it. This was they confiscated our phones at the entrance, and you were just in there. It's a very different vibe being in a federal court with felony charges hanging over people's heads.
All right, Ramona, thank you so much.
Thanks,
we'll talk to you soon. Okay, joining us now from Chicago, Illinois, it's our man Jamal Collier, who actually has been married since the last time I think we had you on. You got married earlier this year.
Yeah, thank you.
And if we did have you on, I apologize for forgetting. But belated congratulations on the nuptials.
Thank you. Honestly, it's been a huge year, but I think the biggest highlight for sure for me. Not even, I think it definitely was.
Very good. It was more of a highlight than the Blazers Bucks game that you were going to go to tonight, but then canceled. I can't believe it.
Yeah, it was an easy decision there.
The Bucks have had a complicated season, to say the least. And I know that Giannis has entered your life in many ways in the last 5 years. And I know that, Giannis is on the record as saying certain things. But I also know that I've been with organizations that are scared to their core. I can remember, for example, in the preseason, Anthony Davis's last year in New Orleans. I went down there for a preseason game to interview Anthony Davis. And I listened to everything that the Pelicans said. I listened to what Dell Demps, the GM, said. I listened to what Anthony said and everything. And I remember going, yeah, they're scared and he's gone. And, that was the year that ended in "That's all, folks," if you remember. And it was. And, and I got that from being around the Cavs, quite frankly, in 2009-10. They lived every day in fear. Now, the difference between those situations and the Milwaukee situation is that Giannis has won a championship there, and his ties are very, very deep. But so let me just ask you, how does it feel around the Bucks?
I don't think it's at that level, and I think the championship really alleviated some of that for Milwaukee. I mean, you guys are always like to talk about actions over words. The actions show you what the Bucks really feel about. They'll do anything to keep Giannis here and have panic. The panic is not, they don't like to sort of classify some of these moves as panic moves, but they're pushing their chips in and doubling down and tripling down to make sure that things stay status quo. I think the thing that for them that they most fall back to is the fact that once that ball is thrown in the air and once the season starts, Giannis will run through a wall every day. And when he's on the floor and his sort of commitment level to Milwaukee, to winning, to being the best and sort of lifting everybody around him, I don't think Giannis is a guy who spends a lot of time thinking and looking around at everything else at this point, just simply because he is so singularly focused on what he can do to be better and go forward. So the Bucks feel comfort in that, and they feel comfort and know they've got a player that's going to be 100% bought in to this team and to this organization while he's wearing the jersey. But the stretch that they're currently in the middle of, depending on when people listen to this podcast without him, I think is another one that is really eye-opening to just how kind of fragile this season even is. I mean, they started the season, as you kind of mentioned it, it felt like they were a lot better than their, that 8-6 record they had when he went out. And now all of a sudden he's been out for just a couple of games and they're under 500 and, outside looking in what has kind of become a crowded Eastern Conference playoff picture. So that's all to say. They felt pretty good once they got to the season with Giannis that all that stuff was going to sort of disappear because of the team that they had and because of his commitment. But they also kind of recognized, and I think everybody recognizes the fact that, this thing is all really being propped up by him on this roster, and they kind of can't afford any really extended stretches without him.
Yeah, I will say that's something. You could absolutely not question Giannis's effort level. That is one thing that you absolutely could not question. He is absolutely bringing it. Unfortunately, right now he's got that injury. I will say this about LeBron. Whatever anybody wants to say about LeBron, and as you may have heard, he switched teams 3 times. He never, in my view, ever gave less than. And it's not a controversy anymore, but that was controversial in Cleveland because people thought he quit on the last playoff series he had in 2010. I agree he did not play well at the end of that playoff series against Boston. He was having this elbow issue, which still is mysterious to this day. But they were getting MRIs on it. It wasn't like he was faking. But I honestly think it was anxiety induced. I think with the big things that he had happening in his life and his career, I think the anxiety affected him. Like if you look at LeBron's career in the playoffs, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here, Jamal. He pretty much had dominating playoff games. Maybe he had games where he got shut down by like the Spurs but I never thought he choked in a playoff game until 2010. And I thought there was a couple of suspect performances. And then 2011, even after he went to the Heat, I think there was a couple of suspect performances. Yeah. Game 5 in the series. People talk about in Cleveland, Game 5 of the 2011 finals is I submit as the worst game of his career. Anyway, Giannis said you can certainly not say that about Giannis. I think he is absolutely fulfilling his contract. I don't think that's in doubt at all.
The thing with them right now, I think in this stretch without him, though, it's really exposed just, I think how much he was shouldering as well during that opening stretch. And just, it's not just the points, right? The 30-some points is, 15, 16 rebounds. But, I mean, he was really their primary playmaker, creator, averaging a career high in assists. Like, their offense and Doc Rivers has kind of sort of tried to spin a positive light on this and say, look, we're going to have to find something to run anyway when he's not in the game. And this is going to sort of force us to find some stuff. And Ryan Rollins has been really a revelation for this team and what he's been able to do. But it is, offensively, it's just really a struggle if everything is not run through him. And for a guy who's been just the mileage that he's kind of had on his career, you guys have been through it before. He's a guy who normally, anyway, is a 60 to 70 game guy. He's not a guy who's been able, staying healthy had been the big thing with him the last couple of playoffs anyway, before this past year. And I think the formula that they're trying to get through this season with, that is so Giannis dependent, so Giannis centric, really, in everything that they do. I think that they've got to find other buttons to be able to push and other ways to keep him, if they're going to keep him upright and healthy and playing at this level for an entire season and have a chance to even go anywhere in the playoffs. They really got to kind of discover something here in this stretch.
All right. Well, we have a special thing about to happen here.
Yo. Sorry, finishing up some chili.
Oh man, coming in hot.
All right, sorry about that. Due to scheduling weirdness, we didn't have MacMahon until now, but MacMahon's here.
Howdy, partners! What a warm, welcoming introduction.
Well, bro, it's going to be in the middle of a long podcast. I don't want to make this big introduction.
I only operate well with grand introductions, so I'll give myself one. Jamal, how you doing, man?
It's good to see you, Tim. It's been a long time since the finals.
Yes, it has been. Just ask the Indiana Pacers. Which a team that took up a lot of your time last year. I don't anticipate that being the case. I do believe, though, those Detroit Pistons are more than willing and more than deserving of filling that void. Is Detroit a drive for you? Is that a flight?
Oh, yeah.
How do you handle that?
No, that's a flight. We had a whole transportation segment where I am lobbying for trains to connect the Midwest. And
I know you would fly to Detroit, MacMahon.
Absolutely. Gotta
MacMahon would fly. MacMahon would fly from the south side to the north side of Chicago.
Listen. All right. Enough about me being a diva. How for real do we think the Pistons are, Jamal?
Look, I was there the other night in Milwaukee when they won their 14th game. And 14-2, 2 years ago, they had 14 wins. That was the worst record in the NBA. So just like that, in of itself is just a crazy. And the fact that they have so many of the same guys in the locker room, you don't normally see, normally to have that sort of start turnaround, you have to sort of turn the roster over. And I think from talking to Jalen Duren, Kate Cunningham, some of those guys after the game, that being a part of that losing and still having that sting of it, I think is really carrying them and motivating them to kind of come out and show just how good they are. And Jalen Duren especially is the reason, you ask why for real, he's for real. And the improvement, the leap that he has made makes them a really dangerous team, because we're not talking about just bona fide all-star, but, a guy who really can be a force in the middle of the paint, playing with K at the rim. Him and Isaiah Stewart are just kind of untouchable in there. They got something for real here that you start this good 14-2, all of a sudden you put yourself in a position to be top 2, top 3 seed in the East at minimum. Get yourself a chance.
Maybe top 1.
Maybe top 1, right?
That's where they're sitting right now. And, Duren's obviously made a huge leap this year. I mean, early most improved player candidate. Certainly a guy who I would seek financial advice from, because his his willingness to bet on himself this summer, I believe, will pay off quite handsomely. I am very curious, and this is early. We're a couple months early on this, but I'm very curious to see the Pistons' appetite for making a all-in type of move before the trade deadline, and not an all-in even on this season, but an all-in on, hey, we're ready to be a contender. Let's get a guy who can kind of push us over the top and be around for at least a few years.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think the Pistons are going to have to decide just how hard they want to hit the gas this year. Because they've been in a situation where they're building. And, the one thing that you don't want to do in a vacuum, when you've got your whiteboard or you've got your PowerPoint, you're having a meeting about your future. The one thing you don't want to do is make a trade that limits your upside. And yeah, it may make you, a little bit better for the season, but limits your upside. And I'm sure that's one of the things that Trajan Langdon, Dennis Lindsay, the brain trust of the Pistons, and Tom Gores, who's, wanted a winning team for so long as the owner, are going to have to, they're moving towards making a decision. And I'm sure, it's one of the things that they have to weigh a lot, and Jamal will be covering it.
Man, it's one thing if you're trading for a 32-year-old. It's another thing if you're trading for a 26-year-old. And we'll see how things play out. I think there could be scenarios where both of those possibilities are potentially in play.
All right, Jamal. Well, thank you so much. Congratulations on your nuptials again. And I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you later in the season.
I was going to talk to you guys.
All right. Now joining us from Naples, Florida. We talked about high school football before this. Is our man Bobby Marks. Hey, Bobby.
Gentlemen, how we doing?
So sorry. Your son had a great run in his high school football season, and you're still getting over a tough 50-46, 50-47 loss last week. My God, what a game.
I'll tell you what, I've been around this business of sports for a long time, and if I could rank the top 5 most disappointing, heartbreaking losses, one was Friday night in a high school football game, and one when I was coaching 7th and 8th grade basketball, and we were like the UNLV team of the 90s and rolled into playoffs and I got upset, and it still sticks with me to this day.
Man, was there foul play
in the high school one?
Oh, stop!
No, I don't. No, I'm not asking for that. No.
They brought in outside kids from out of the district for that one. Oh, yeah.
Listen,
let's just say those kids. We never saw those kids again at that school that we lost to.
Okay.
Stop asking Bobby leading questions. We're not going to get Bobby in trouble here.
He's talking about 7th and 8th grade basketball. I can appreciate it. That this is high time of the year. High school football is going on, championship level football, and a lot of high drama happening in the various places I keep an eye on. But it was a great season for your son, Bobby, and so hopefully you'll take that, you'll accept that after the sting phase. I'm sure he was very upset.
Back to the portal. Now we got to hit the portal harder,
That's right. Back to, are there in-home visits? How's all that work for you?
Hey, listen, I am the Ohio High School Athletic Association, which exploited LeBron James to the tune of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars and maybe even millions, who knows, 25 years ago. Shamefully just had to accept a lawsuit they were going to lose to finally allow NIL in Ohio high school sports. They were completely backward. One of 6 states that wasn't allowing NIL.
I think Texas is another one of those. I don't think Texas.
They should be ashamed too. They should be ashamed too. I can't speak for Texas. I'm not involved with Texas high schools, but I would speak to how shameful it was that elite high school athletes had to leave Ohio because they were behind the times. And so they finally someone sued them, just like LeBron had to sue them for their ridiculous hypocrisy back in the 2000s. And just like when LeBron sued them, they were on the wrong side of it. So sorry, Bobby, I got myself fired up there. about it. The way they treated LeBron back in those days, where they were selling out arenas and putting them on pay-per-view, and then said you can't play because you took a $500 jersey, which wasn't even worth $500, but whatever. And it was the jealousy of the other schools because they were so, thick-headed to understand that there was a phenomena happening. Every single one of LeBron's high school games was like a gift, to everybody involved. And there were jealous, short-sighted, idiot old men who were trying to figure out ways to throw it in the trash can.
Well, Doug Christie might call them haters and critics.
Well, sounds like the seven officials from Friday night when I was walking off the field. And my wife said to me, "Don't say anything to them." And I said, I used a patented Jason Kidd line from when he was coaching the Nets. And I said, "Hey, 3 blind mice. Nice game."
Bobby, you're a public figure.
But there's 7 of them. It doesn't work as well.
And it was dark at.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, Bobby, I don't even know what we're talking about here. We're just messing around. We're just messing around on Friendsgiving. I just don't want to talk about the second apron. I just don't want to talk about the second apron. I feel like Bobby
Thanksgiving dinner.
In the upcoming trade season, I feel like we're going to have to get one of those wah 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 whenever we have Bobby on, because I see so many people being like, because people are starting to propose trades to me, and they're like, "Oh no! What if blah blah blah?" I'm like, nope. Like, we're only at the beginning of Bobby throwing cold water on possible things because he has to be the bearer of the news on the rules.
Well, you've had to reassess or maybe even retire. You're saying what's your old saying? A 3-team trade is a no-team trade.
Yeah, because they all have to. A 2-team trade's a no-team trade.
Yeah,
you
now
need 3
team
teams.
Trade is impossible almost.
You're right.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at last year. Like, Jimmy Butler gets traded. You got to get Toronto involved, right? Like, you got to get a third team involved, unless you're 2 teams who are like in really good shape financially, like let's say like Detroit and somebody else. Like Detroit's in really good shape, but any of these, we'll be talking probably about some of these bigger name guys, whether it be Ja or Trey. We're making over $35-40 million here. Though when you're dealing one-on-one, it's Anthony Davis just becomes really really challenging. Even if you're not a first apron team, like teams are pressed against it. Mm-hmm. Whether you're the Clippers or the Lakers or Houston, where you're like $1 million below it, it presents a challenge.
Yeah, that's true. So, Bobby, who are the teams this year? I mean, so the Pistons, the Nets, right? The Nets have flexibility. Who's going to be the dance partner this year?
I think it's Brooklyn, of course, just because they're still sitting on about $15 million in cap space. They're really the only team, but there's a lot of teams out there. Detroit's in really good position. We wrote about them last week in that little mini trade guide we did with some of these contending teams. They kind of, the rarity of a team that's sitting in first place and is on this long winning streak that has, 4 first to trade, pick swaps every year, 15 seconds. Man, they are well below the apron, first apron that, they're sitting on that big Tobias Harris expiring contract and stuff. So they're in a really good position. And then there's some other teams, as far as third teams, you just kind of look at the standings, whether it be the Wizards or the Hornets, because even if you don't have room, you could still use your non-tax mid-level exception, which is $14 million, to take on a player, which we've seen in the past. I want to just explain that real quick because you just went by the technical terms of it. We talked about Brooklyn having cap space, but if you didn't use your mid-level exception, which is Bobby said is $14 million and change, and you have enough room under the apron because you can't exceed the first apron with it, and there's a few teams like this, you can use that mid-level exception to take on a contract. So, with all these, the challenge with all these trades also, Bobby, is it's not so much just doing the matching, because you mentioned how many teams are so close to the line. It's not just getting a trade that works under league rules, which you have to get within a certain percentage of a trade, 25% or 20%.
it's that some of these teams can't take on money in the deal. They
Yeah.
can't do a trade, and the trade, even if it's legal, even if they take a player making $20 million and they trade him for a player making $22 million, that trade works under the rules.
Dude, $20 million versus $20 million and $1.
Exactly.
And that's like, That, I mean, you hit it right on the head, and it's like, you know, like we could talk about like Cleveland, for example, who are the only team that's sitting over the second apron just based on where their payroll. But if Cleveland wanted to trade a guy making 20 and a guy making 22 and take back less salary, let's say 35, they're not allowed to do it because you're not allowed to aggregate contracts.
Yeah.
So we saw that with Phoenix. That was the big thing with Phoenix with when we were talking about Beal a lot last year, besides him having such a big number. They weren't able to add anything with him, even if they were going to take back less money.
And they didn't have any picks.
Well, they didn't. And I'll tell you what, this is, and I know their schedule is going to get tougher here, but this is one of the more interesting stories that it's going on in Phoenix right now, as far as them basically just stringing along. They're basically been stacking up games, and they've gotten great. You know, it's funny. It's like, this is the guard play they needed, 2 years ago.
I know.
With Colin Gillespie and Jordan Goodwin and some of these, and Grayson Allen before he got hurt. When Orlando made that trade with Memphis, the Desmond Bane train, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, that Phoenix pick's going to be looking juicy, man." You know, that's going to Memphis and stuff.
The Grizzlies thought that was the best asset they got in the deal.
And you know what? That Orlando pick might be better.
Yeah.
When you look at it, because you get to either one of them. It's the thing. And listen, I know that we've talked a lot about that New Orleans pick that goes to Atlanta and stuff like that could be really juicy, but sometimes what you think you're going to get in a draft pick doesn't really turn out to be what it's all made out to be.
Yeah. The funny thing is all the trades that the Thunder have made, they really have not gotten lucky.
Getting a lottery pick that ended up being Jalen Williams. Nobody thought they were getting a lottery pick from the Clippers that early. So
that's true, but it was a 12th pick. It wasn't like they got
but when you make that trade, you're thinking the picks are going to be in the 20s, not the lottery.
Well, okay, but they could have gotten a Rockets pick that was as high as 5, and then the Rockets jump into the lottery. They could have gotten Utah's
top Sixers.
Yeah, then the last year with the Sixers. So, the Jazz
one will be interesting this year. The Jazz are in dangerous territory, giving up the 9th or 10th pick instead of keeping it top 8 protected. And then after this, it just goes into dust, right?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Oklahoma City, they used to be like this lovable, everybody was rooting for them. But if they come out of this with this Clipper pick, and they got a Philly pick that who the hell knows where the Sixers team goes, and they got another and like that Clipper pick, and then you got swap rights next year with them also. So
just to be clear, the Thunder get the Jazz's pick if it's 9th or higher.
Correct.
If it's inside the top 8, not only do they not get it this year, they don't ever get it. It goes away.
Right.
And they get the Clipper pick no matter where it is.
No,
so it is
right.
The Clipper one. It's two of the more favorable of Clippers, their own, and Houston if it's 5-30, and then the other one goes to the Wizards. So like you could walk and then they got the Philly pick too. That's protected. I think top 4. I want to say. But man, that Clipper pick, and they'll probably turn it around, but
it's unprotected, the Clipper pick, right?
Yeah.
So it wouldn't, if the Jazz do a little bit more winning than we were expecting, and the Clippers aren't able to recover, the Thunder could have 2 picks in the top. It's not unreasonable to think the Thunder could have 2 picks in the top 10 this year.
No, it's certainly possible. Fellas, I was talking to somebody with another front office the other day, and you know how there's the step-in rule because the Cleveland owner just kept on mortgaging their future and trading first-round pick after first-round pick. So that's obviously why teams can't trade first-round picks in back-to-back years. This guy he was serious. He was wondering if the league was going to put in or should put in some kind of Presti rule So you can only have so many. You can only own so many first-round picks at one time. They're basically saying, "Hey, we got to Presti-proof this league. The Thunder are doing too damn much. They're too good with too many assets moving forward." I disagreed with the premise, but it's interesting that it's even a thought.
Well, that's how you beat the apron. If you want to know how you beat the aprons, it's the draft picks. It's AJ Mitchell on that contract. It's all those little small deals that you can have, guys that come off your bench. Cason Wallace on a rookie contract. You have three big guys.
It also helps that Jalen Williams is not going to, we would have thought there was a reasonable chance Jalen Williams would get all NBA and get Supermax.
But you know what? The other thing is, if there's ever a time to just blow past the second apron, it's when you are early in a potential dynasty and you're getting an arena essentially gifted to you that's opening up here in a few years. They'll be paying Shai Gilgeous-Alexander more per year than they are for the arena total. The city's taking care of that. And, like the deep playoff runs, potential expansion. And we'll see what happens with NBA Europe. I'm just saying.
When you say your Thanksgiving prayers, don't include the Thunder.
Yeah, there's no rule.
Unless you're a Thunder fan, you're thanking Sam Presti.
Yeah, and there's no rule that you have to, if you're sitting in Sam Presti's seat, make decisions to get rid of guys. Yeah. Now, you might have to make decisions to get rid of picks because you only got 15 roster spots, but Sam Presti has some very enviable problems.
All right, Bobby, thank you so much for your time and always your information. You're a very valued member of our team at ESPN. MacMahon is just a member, but you're a valued member.
He's valuable. He's valuable.
But not very valuable. Just
you're a member. You're a member too, Wendy.
I'm just disappointed Bontemps wasn't on this one,
I know. He couldn't be bothered. He had to be in South Florida. All right.
I was giving Bontemps update during that football game Friday night. He's my normal Friday night. He wants score updates during these games.
Bontemps
as if you weren't miserable enough watching the team lose a heartbreaker. You got to communicate with Bontemps.
Bontemps is involved like.
Well, the funny thing is,
funny
thing, I was cheering so much, my phone fell out of my pocket underneath the stands. So I was under there during the fourth quarter, like looking for this thing.
But the thing about Bontemps, he's involved in like 65 different like various fantasy leagues, like all kinds of different stuff. And I'm surprised, and he's always like, he always knows everything. And so, I'm surprised you weren't like, oh yeah, man, they just scored to take the lead, 43-42. And I know I got so-and-so running back from, something prep. I got him. And, he scored all these points for me. All right, Bobby, have a great Thanksgiving.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, now joining us from Los Angeles, California, where he isn't as much as he used to be, is our man, Ohm Youngmisuk. What's up, Ohm?
What's up? I apologize if I'm like a zombie. I just did 6 games in 8 nights in 3 different cities. This is my 4th city, and I don't even know, 9 nights.
Yeah, you've been flying a couple of things I need to talk to you that are very important. Number one, you've lived in LA for many years, and you are a United loyalist. But
just made $1K for next year.
That's the top level United.
And it was a grind.
Okay, now let me ask you this. And some people who are listening will care about this and some people won't, but it's my podcast. You are now spending a lot of time in Atlanta.
I thought it was our podcast.
It is our podcast, MacMahon. Don't worry about it. Don't ask questions. You are now spending a lot of time in Atlanta because you're covering the Southeast for us.
Yeah.
As people may know who are out there traveling, some of whom are probably on Delta flights right now, like 99%, well, maybe not 99 because Southwest has a big presence, but a huge percentage of Atlanta flights are Delta, and a very small percentage is United.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on here? What are we going to do?
There's been a lot of connecting through Denver and Houston.
Okay, so you're sticking with it.
Well, that was to get to 1K. So now I'm at 1K. And I thought in the past you could just have Delta or United or American match your status for the whole year. So you would say January 1st, say I'm 1K on United, Delta, will you please match? And then I can fly Delta at that level. But Delta will only match for 90 days. And within those 90 days, you have to fly at the level of what is their highest one, premier medallion or whatever it is, platinum medallion, whatever, diamond medallion, is that what it is?
That's the highest, yeah.
You would have to fly at the level that those diamond medallions normally do in those 90 days. And then I think they might extend it for like another 90 days or give it to you for the whole year. But that's a lot of flying within 1 month. So we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do. I might have to consult with you, Wendy.
Sounds like some middle seats.
Because the only way I can get direct flights is Delta. On top of which, I now that I've spent a lot of time in Atlanta, I've come to learn that flying out of Atlanta is expensive.
Oh, listen.
I am finding flights to just Atlanta to Orlando be way more expensive than a direct flight from Orlando to Los Angeles.
Did you know that Atlanta to Orlando is one of the 5 highest volume flight markets in the country?
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. So like number 1 is like LA, New York. That's more people fly LA to New York, than any other per day. And in Orlando, Atlanta's in the top 5.
Huh.
Oh, I love it. Wait.
But especially with the TSA situation lately, but at all times that Atlanta airport ain't like quick enough.
Windhorst will tell you.
Windhorst
will tell you, MacMahon. I texted Windhorst. This is during the government shutdown, so you can imagine how bad it was. This is about maybe 2.5 weeks ago. And I said to Windhorst, the more I travel out of this airport, the more I realize this is the worst airport in the country, major metropolitan airport in the country.
You do the show up 30 minutes before a flight thing, which is absolute insanity under any circumstances. Have you gotten out of that?
I have, because of the government shutdown. Windhorst will be happy to know that I've been showing up to airports earlier than I normally do. But that still only gives me maybe I show up maybe 10 minutes before boarding.
Would you like to hear the top 10 highest volume airline routes in the U.S.?
Yes,
I mean, anything
please.
to thrill the audience.
Well, it's a Friendsgiving. This is a travel pod. Many of them are going to be on this. Okay, JFK, LAX, but when you include Newark, JFK, LAX is technically farther down the list, but when you include all New York to LA, it's number 1. All right, number 2, LA, San Francisco.
I did that a lot last year.
You did.
161 nights on the road last year.
161 nights on the road. Number 3 also involves LA. Do you want to take a guess?
LA. So we did New York, we did San Francisco, LA, Chicago.
Vegas. No, Vegas isn't flight.
No, you got it, MacMahon. LA, Vegas.
Okay.
Wow.
Number 4, Atlanta, Orlando, as I said. Number 5, LaGuardia, O'Hare.
LaGuardia,
O'Hare.
That's interesting.
And back and forth, not just from LaGuardia to O'Hare, but these are all included in both ways. Number 6, I do not think that you guys would get.
Omaha to LAX.
No, that's my volume. That's my high volume.
DFW to OKC.
No. DFW is actually not on any of these top 10.
That surprises me, actually.
Yeah. Denver, the ones after.
I was about to say Denver.
Denver to Phoenix, Atlanta to LaGuardia, Denver to Vegas, that kind of surprises me, and Denver to Chicago are all in the top 10. But this one, this is a surpriser. This one is not on the mainland.
Hawaii?
Honolulu to Maui.
Honolulu to Maui?
Honolulu to Kalualui.
I have done that flight, and it's
of course you have, and it's always on time.
Yes.
All right. Now that we've done that, so Ohm, have you found any? What is your, have you found any go-to food? Are you lemon pepper winging it in Atlanta?
He's happy married. Don't do that.
I have been wanting to do that. I have not gotten around to lemon pepper winging it from the place that I need to go to, Magic City. No, you know what? I've been living out of hotels so far. Eventually I'll get to corporate housing probably next March, I think. But until then, I'm not in Atlanta as much because we are expecting. So I will probably be in Los Angeles from second week of Los Angeles on, and then on paternity leave. And then that's when I'll probably be getting into the the
Did
grind.
you hear what he just dropped? MacMahon just dropped
it's an
paternity leave
announcement.
coming up.
Oh, yeah.
It's very, very exciting, Ohm. Best to you and your wife.
Thank you.
MacMahon, did you know, MacMahon, that I have elite status on all 3 major U.S. airlines?
Wow.
Actually,
I'm impressed.
All 4.
I've never been more impressed with you than just right
All
now.
4?
I have it on all 4.
At the height of my travel, I've only had the top elite status on United and Delta, and I thought I was king of the world.
As of right now, I have.
He's big time. He's big
and
time.
not only
Diva.
that,
no coach tickets for old Wendy.
Oh yeah,
first class Wendy.
No, not silver status. I'm above silver on all of them.
Oh well,
yeah, yeah.
And Southwest A list. I don't know. There's only one, as far as I know. So,
hey,
how many flights in a 1 year can you give to the normal human being to have them understand how many flights would you have to take to maintain that status on all 4?
It's because status is not. It's because status is not based on number of flights anymore. It's based on other things. But
yes,
but I am sensitive to the struggle that you have, Ohm, as somebody who is a United man living in a Delta city. I am sensitive to it. So I respect what you're going through.
Wendy can still relate to the common man.
What I could use is some advice of how I can muscle my wife into allowing me to name the baby Izzo. I've even approached Draymond on this, and Draymond said Draymond's about to have a baby, and he said, I'm in the exact same corner as you are, fighting
this is
the
his
same
5th
fight.
kid. With his
wife.
Draymond's 0 for 4. I don't think any of them are named Izzo.
I don't know if he would I don't know if he would allow me to say what he wants to name the baby. Maybe I shouldn't say it. But I love the name that he has, that he wants to name his baby, but his wife has different ideas. Yeah.
Why don't you name this baby Ishbia?
Oh, you know what? So my wife's response was, if you can get Tom to be the godfather, then yes, I'll sign off on that. I have not sent that text yet to Coach.
Also, I will say that you know my thing about Michigan State, folks, is that no one loves people from Michigan State more than people from Michigan State.
We're family.
You know my thing about Michigan State, folks. It's a shame they couldn't have gotten into Michigan.
So here's the thing about Ohm. MacMahon, you know this well.
MacMahon.
Ohm is famous for 2 things: United Airlines and beverages. Ohm is a connoisseur of beverages.
Well, 3 things. I will say this. Ohm is the best at collecting and utilizing Marriott points that I've ever seen. Ever.
You need to, maybe one day I'll get on one of those little Marriott videos when you walk in and you turn on the TV and they got somebody who's like, I'm in Vietnam and I'm doing this. Been there, Marriott. I've been at your best properties in Vietnam.
No,
yes.
But you say beverages. To be clear, Ohm is not a man who, sips on these spirits.
Yes, he's that's right. He's not like you, MacMahon.
I don't sip on spirits. I'm solamente cerveza.
So good job. So Ohm is if Ohm is known for pretty much having 3 different types of beverages at any one time. When Ohm got this custom refrigerator that could maximize beverage storage.
Is this true?
And then when he had to move from New Jersey to Los Angeles a few years ago, he moved the fridge.
Okay. I wanted to cross country. It was a Samsung refrigerator that had all the bells and whistles. Mine now, as Windhorst will talk about, it has a beverage center with 2 types of ice makers, which, by the way, this is the big riot here. Maybe you might know what to do, Wendy, because your wife is as into, I believe, beverages and ice as I am. I have 2 ice makers. One is the big cubes. One is the little small cubes, which my wife likes. That one, like, there's something that snapped. Yeah, the crushed ice. That's what I'm talking about, the little small nugget one.
It's not it's not crushed ice. Crushed ice, any average refrigerator can do. It's the ice nuggets.
Yes, the ice nuggets.
Yes.
The little tray that it falls into, then it falls into the big tray. The little tray that it makes the little ice snapped off for whatever reason. So one little part cracked. And I've been thinking, okay, maybe I can put it back in and but just I was like, you know what, Samsung should be able to come out and do this. No. Just to call Samsung to have someone come out to look at it, immediately they charge like $150, and it's through some other like third party. And then on top of that, we looked it up. Just apparently this has happened in a lot of Samsungs. Just to fix that little part, there's like one little part that cracked off. It's going to be hundreds of dollars just for the little nugget thing. So I am so I've been going to Chick-fil-A to buy the nugget ice for $3 a bag or $4 a bag.
Oh my God.
Because my wife who's pregnant loves that nugget ice. So
this is how they got together, MacMahon. This is their connection is this the love of these beverages. Like when I see Ohm, so here's the thing. When Ohm arrives at a game, when you arrive at a game, just an average game on you just had 6 games in 8 days or whatever. What beverages do you have with you? And what do you take to your seat?
Hold on. There's one large iced coffee. I know that.
Yes, one large iced coffee.
And he will nurse that sucker for the entire game.
Yes, I will have one large iced coffee, usually like a 32 ounce, or is the biggest I can get. If it's coffee bean, is 32 ounce. If it's Dunkin' Donuts, is large. In fact, the Clippers, who I just saw for the first time in a while, started laughing at me because they saw that I had Dunkin' Donuts in my hand. And they know that I am a diehard coffee bean guy. So when I would go to Clippers home games, I always have coffee bean in my hand. So they started laughing because they knew now he's in Orlando, he has to go get Dunkin' Donuts because I don't really do Starbucks. And then I will have
Jackson. He's just totally offending so many potential sponsors. Samsung,
Starbucks. You got money, and I drink your stuff.
And I will do bottles of root beer or a large root beer, but I usually carry bottles of root beer because
right, because you can't get a bottle of root beer in your average NBA arena, right?
Some arenas do have Barks root beer, not a lot. You know what I've been having a real difficult time finding in arenas, mostly from the media. This is something where fans are going to be like, boo-hoo, but it's hard to get ice. You have to like buy like a large cup or something, buy a soda in the arena just to get a cup of ice. It's very difficult in a lot of arenas to just get ice.
Well, and typically we would have beverage centers in media rooms, but those are going away
Those are going away. Yes.
Okay. You got your iced coffee, you got your root beer. What else?
No, that's pretty much about
now. What
Can I recommend some H2O? I'm worried about your hydration.
Yeah, I do.
No. You also have sports drinks. You also have a sports drink.
I think you happened to see me one day, Wendy, in the playoffs where we were in Phoenix, and I probably was running like
Phoenix. Yeah,
I had 3. I had a Gatorade going too, I think, as well.
Okay. How many restroom breaks per game? Because I always get...
There's a lot of flying. Are you a window man or an aisle man? You got to be an aisle man.
Window man. Man,
this is not a good combination. A beverage man who sits on the window.
Ooh, I tell you what, that is tough.
Because I need to sleep. But I'm usually window exit aisle.
All right, Ohm. Thank you very much. Have a great week.
See you guys. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Happy holidays.
See you, little Omi.
Okay, now joining us from Phoenix, Arizona, which is where he's at while we're recording this. It's our man, Michael C. Wright. What's up, Mike?
Not much. How are you fellas doing? It's good to see you all again. Except for the Tim MacMahon guy. I'm tired of seeing him.
Yeah, you Texans.
The C is for chump.
The C is for Corleone, which is one of the greatest things I've ever heard.
Country. Hey, you didn't introduce him properly. It is the co-star of the hit YouTube show Howdy Partners.
I left it for you to do.
A Lone Star Lens.
Is it a hit?
Thursday. Michael C. Wright. Oh yeah, baby.
It's a hit because it's got McMahon's face on it, Corleone. That's all that really matters to him. He loves the YouTubes.
The good folks in
trying his way to connect with the children.
That was creepy.
Listen, man? You want the youth
Mike,
to be paying attention
you're
to
the resident pitmaster on our staff. What do you? I have to ask. I think I've asked you this on previous Friendsgivings. What is on the menu? What are you cooking on Thursday?
I have a reservation at STK in Denver, my man.
Oh, man, you're on the road. You're on the road.
That is
what a
correct. The wife
cool
will
bunch
be doing
of people that would send you on the road. I'm also going to be on the road. All right. Well, what is if you were home, what would you be making?
Just the traditional stuff. I mean, I've got the wife doing it, and she knows her way around a barbecue pit too. So right now we have a turkey about to be put in a brine today, I think. Let that thing brine
This
about
is
48
Monday
hours.
afternoon. Okay, you brine it for 48
let it brine
hours.
about 48 hours. Pull it out Wednesday night and let it just sit in the fridge, dry out a little bit, and then she'll season it up and throw that thing on the smoker. But yeah, we're just doing the regular stuff. I think I have some.
Yeah, it's the
people
regular
coming
stuff to
down.
cook a turkey for 3 days, boss. That's not how
cooking.
most people
Brine
are doing
is just soaking in water. It's just soaking
I
in water.
understand. I'm saying the average person isn't starting their turkey process on Monday. That's top 1% work, I would say.
We
What
got to
are
come
the
over
sides?
and have
What
a
are the
piece,
sides?
man. It's really good stuff. Again, I'm not privy to it all, but I believe she's, the green bean casserole, the dressing.
So you
My
say
parents were
dressing, you're
supposed to come
Texan.
and bring collard green.
But
He
Yeah,
doesn't
she
like
makes-
that you
she
said
makes
dressing
dressing.
as a Texan.
No, it's stuffing.
Well, no.
Dressing.
Those are two different things. Those are different things. Dressing. That's
I
it.
will just say that I have an unpopular opinion for which if I say I probably will
Go
face
ahead.
backlash. I don't think Thanksgiving food is that special. And
It's
I
not.
advocate, thank you.
Eh.
And I advocate, now I understand the tradition of it. And if you've had the same casserole at your Thanksgiving that your aunt has made for your whole life, then absolutely, then it is special. And if your dad, puts the turkey out in the smoker for 3 days every year, then that's fine. And you taste it and that's my dad, that's my grandfather, or that's my grandmother's turkey. That's fine. The tradition of it, I don't have anything to say about the tradition of it. But the actual food itself, I don't understand why people celebrate it so much.
My favorite food from it is the sandwiches after. So I would agree
probably.
with your position.
But that's what I'm saying, like a turkey sandwich. Like a turkey sandwich is what we give to people when we've got nothing else to give them. When they do, these giant, lunches for like hundreds of people at like conventions and things like prisons, they give them turkey sandwiches. Why is this? So I advocate for something that's, different. Should I go to jail for that?
Then you can get a
No.
turkey
You
sandwich.
just said people in prison are having turkey sandwiches. So I don't know. Maybe you should go to jail and give them some different food. I don't know what we're talking about.
Like turkey sandwich is the definition of a nondescript lunch is a turkey sandwich. And I understand it's different. A cold cut sandwich is different from I understand that. Don't put it in the comments. And I am taking my family to a restaurant this year.
Oh.
And I specifically wanted a restaurant where I could order off the menu. And yes, they can also order turkey, traditional Thanksgiving.
So we're going to an Italian restaurant to have chicken parm?
That's
what
correct.
we're having? Yeah.
I don't know if I'll
People
have
that
chicken
don't
parm.
know, Window has chicken parm at about 98% of meals.
That's actually
This is
not
Thanksgiving.
true. That's not true. It's hard to find good chicken parm. It's hard. You can find
that's why
average.
you try to find it wherever you go.
And when I find it, I appreciate it.
You have chicken parm power rankings throughout the NBA?
There's definitely, I could probably tell you, maybe not every city, but many cities I could tell you where I have a chicken parm spot. Yeah. And one of my favorite places, Mike Wright, is a place in Milwaukee where you can get a chicken parm pizza.
Chicken parm pizza. I would try that.
And you may say, well, it's just pizza with chicken on it, but no, it's not. There's an art to it. So anyway, enough about that. So you're out there with the Rockets, Mike, right? Are you on this whole road trip? On Thanksgiving, you're going to be with what's ahead of a Nuggets Rockets game?
Nope, I will be there ahead of Spurs Nuggets.
I was going to say that's a huge NBA Cup game on Friday. That's the only reason I know that.
Well, it might not mean anything though.
Well, it definitely means something to Denver because Denver can still advance. But yeah, San Antonio will be out unless they win both Wednesday's game against Portland and then Friday's game against Denver.
Well, the Spurs have a tough situation here, Mike, because they actually, for the first time all season, basically have to go on the road. I think out of their first 14 games, they only played 5 road games. I think they had the most.
Something like that.
And look, at the end of the day, everybody plays the same number of home and road games in the same number of days. It's the nature of the schedule.
Not necessarily true with the NBA Cup anymore, but go on.
Fair point, Mr. MacMahon. I'd like to retract that statement and once again congratulate you on your thoughtful intelligence.
I appreciate that.
For the most part, that is true. And later on, the rodeo trip will come back and even out for the Spurs. But they've had a favorable home road balance, which I think has helped them get off to this good start. Would you agree or disagree?
I would agree with you. And they had the French guy, that 7'5", however tall he is. They had that guy too for a lot of those games. So
now let me ask you this. I think that the Nuggets or the Spurs have done very well, better than we thought. And of course, some games will have been played by the time this comes out. But they've managed without Victor and Dylan Harper and now Castle very well. Do you think they can keep that up?
I'm beginning to question it. I really am, because to me, there's just some inconsistency there. And, like I'm noticed, like, for instance, last night against the Suns, I think their physicality really got to the Spurs. And so, you're thinking, okay, well, the Spurs played a physical game like 2 weeks ago against the Houston Rockets and they came out on top. And so you're thinking they can handle that just fine. But it's been twice now that Phoenix has done this to them. They did it the first time with Victor Wembanyama, in the fray, and they double teamed him, got up under him, gave him all sorts of trouble. So I just think that people are starting to figure out how to play the Spurs, and they are really struggling, when they sort of encounter these types of defenses. So they got to figure it out.
How to play the Spurs? Make them shoot threes?
Yeah, pretty much. But also turn them over. I mean, they committed 19 turnovers last night. That's 14 points. I mean, that was the game. And, there's just too much inconsistency. And I think it's, you have so many young guys on that roster that have, for better or worse, they've lost most of their career. Like, they don't know how to win yet. And that's what this is. This is all them trying to figure it out. And, luckily they've got a veteran like Harrison Barnes that can kind of, okay, let's calm down here. We have this lead. This much time left in the game. This is how we got to handle it moving forward. But I just think that, there's inconsistency also with the lineups because, all these guys have been hurt. Dylan Harper, I mean, he's just now starting to ramp back up. Vic has been out. Stephon Castle. So they really haven't had enough time on the floor together to sort of gain that chemistry, that cohesion that is going to help them down the stretch of some of these tight games.
Now, I want to say something else, unless Bontemps or MacMahon have something to say, because I'm just chatting away here. Rockets have not played a back-to-back yet and don't for like another 10 days.
Pretty wild. That means Steven Adams can play in all the games.
I thought it was not until December, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
it is. No, it is. It's valid.
We aren't far from December, so we only got a few more.
10 days.
It's at home and then in Dallas.
A week.
Oh,
something
tough
like
back-to-back.
Yeah, I guess.
when he's taking shots at those pesky little Mavies.
I wanted to ask you, Mike, you mentioned Stephon Castle. He's had a great year. He's made some real strides. The one place he hasn't made strides, though, is in his shooting. Under 25% from three. It's under 70% from the line. I've been a big fan of him going back to college, but that's been the one question that's really been followed him since he was at UConn, right? Is he going to become a good enough shooter?
Sure.
That's only been amplified by drafted Dylan Harper and then trading for De'Aaron Fox. So obviously there's been a lot to be excited about with the way he's played early on, distributing the ball, and he's shooting like 60+% on twos. Like, he's made some really big strides, but where do you feel like they are with him in terms of trying to get that outside shot to a place where it can unlock his game and can allow him to, successfully be able to play alongside these other guys?
I will tell you what they tell me, and that is that the mechanics are there. They like the mechanics. They like the way the shot looks. They just have to get it more consistent. And so, like you said, Stephon has made a ton of strides. Just, like last year, I always said, like, if he can finish better at the rim. Well, he's finishing better at the rim now. He is figuring out ways to find space for Victor to set him up. Love that. But it's that outside shot. Now, the only thing that I will say that is encouraging is that Stephon is not afraid to take it. If he's missing shots, it's not like all of a sudden he's going to stop shooting. I mean, and there have been times like late in games. I can remember in New Orleans about a month ago, into that game, it was really tight, catches the ball out on the wing, fires that thing up. It's good. And that basically won the game for the Spurs. So he's taking those tough shots, even though he's not making them. And to me, that's encouraging because he's going to get better. He just needs, repetition. That's all he needs is more repetition. He's going to be a better shooter. I think a lot of those guys need the reps to be shooting the ball better because I'm looking at like Dylan Harper. He hasn't even really gotten a chance to play yet.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just now starting the ramp up process with him. And I was watching him warm up the other day. The 3-pointer looked good, but does it look good when the lights are on? When you've got real opponents, not Spurs staffers running at you. So I'm interested to see how that goes with him. But overall, the Spurs sorely need shooting. It's an issue that's going to be there the rest of the season, I think.
I'm sorry you have to be on the road all week, Mike.
Hey, man. Hey, this is what we do, right?
That's true. It is.
This is what we do. Well, it's okay.
Safe travels to you. Thank you for your insight. And to when we talk later in the season, hey, man, I'll tell you something. The way things are going, we may have some playoff action down Texas way. We might be able to stop over and you can cook for us. Do you like how I just invited myself?
I don't know about that. Oh, yeah. MacMahon made me do that one time.
Corleone, just shut the door in your face. Get out. Go have your chicken parm.
MacMahon made me cook for him one time when he showed up.
Ain't no made you cook. Trust me, he likes to put on a little show and he all the prep and everything. It's a whole production. He likes to do it. We gonna eat.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wright. Have a great week.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, now joining us from Las Vegas, where she's about to attend her first ever Syracuse game, is Malika Andrews.
This is a big moment that has been years coming in my household. This is basically a national holiday. So I have 5 minutes before we got to go get the Go Orange SYRACE. I don't know the chant.
You had to look down to spell it.
I don't even know who they're playing.
They're playing Houston.
Houston,
the best team in the country.
That's a tough opponent.
Go
also
Cougs.
going to do a little scouting for the draft here.
Oh, good. Definitely.
Yeah, they've only got 2 lottery picks on their team, and they're loaded.
Oh, Houston?
Yes, Houston.
Not
Syracuse.
I know Q's don't have a whole lot of talent.
Malika, what are you expecting from a Syracuse game with potentially mildly insane Syracuse fans that you'll be sitting next to?
Well, when we were driving here from the airport, when we were driving to MGM where the game is taking place, I looked over at Dave, my husband, and I said, I don't know that I've seen you look this happy in a long time. And he looked at me and Brian, he smiled and he said, it's the Cuse juice. So I am expecting.
Oh my God.
The juice is loose.
Oh my God. Juice is going to get squeezed in about an hour by Houston.
Did you have to help him apply the paint to his back or anus chest or just the back?
Well, that's the thing. Like now, Dave has done some crazy stuff, like taken red eyes across the country and changed planes 2 times and all this stuff to get to Syracuse games. How is he when Syracuse does he just enjoy the game? Because I watch the Cleveland Browns for the spectacle. I don't worry about whether they win or lose.
No, he worries.
Okay.
There's a worry. There's a care factor. And honestly, it's kind of cool because I think in what all of us do, you kind of lose the fandom piece of it. And this is his one slice of the fandom that's, well, I won't say one slice, Syracuse basketball, Eagles football. And when we get to Red October and the Phillies are good, then there's a little bit of Philly pride there too. But it's that's kind of the trifecta.
Well, hopefully this goes better than the Monday night football game or Sunday night football game went.
You guys are I don't think Dave's going to be joining this Friendsgiving.
So what is it like to watch a Syracuse game? Jackson, our man here, he lives and dies with Cuse. He just went to South Bend to see them play football a couple of days ago. What is the experience like when he's just like watching on television? Like, is he living and dying with every basket?
I wouldn't say living in close. Yeah, close. And you all know he's very even keeled. The only time I genuinely see him get upset is when Syracuse loses. So,
oh boy.
So I think you're being a little charitable. The only time
we have
he
dinner
gets upset.
reservations at 6:45. This could be a joyous dinner or it could be a very silent one. We'll see how it goes.
So Malika, I have to point out that coming up on December 14th.
Yep.
Kent State, who I would like to point out is off to a 6-1 start, is playing at Portland.
Aha. Do we
Your
need
alma mater.
you and I need to have a little friendly discussion about this?
I mean, I'm just hoping that you don't ask for points because Kent State is, a juggernaut apparently this year. So,
Malika better be getting points.
This is not Caps Corner. This is Kent State Corner now. I didn't realize I was coming on here to be the college sports aficionado. Here I am.
Yes. Yes. I think that there should be some sort of wager. I think that I should maybe get points because the game is in Oregon. I mean, that's a long
relax
way to travel.
Relax.
Don't
come on here saying Kent State's a juggernaut and then start whining for points.
I will say Brian, big money Windy over here is when he signed his new deal. I walked into my little closet at ESPN and there was a lovely little note from Brian, and somehow he knew where I like to shop for horse stuff, and he had called and put money on my account as a thank you, which I don't know what for because Brian is the most, this is all him on his own. So I feel like I am already in debt to Brian in the gift giving department here.
Did you guys hear that?
Yeah. Bontemps, did you get a thank you note and a little gift?
Obviously not.
We apparently don't do anything for him.
Nope, nothing.
So I guess we're
dragging behind him like
I guess you just
parachutes.
I guess you just have to have your own reserved closet at the ESPN
That's right.
to get a thank you.
That's right.
Here.
And your own horse. I grew up on a farm. I never had a horse.
Each other's same suit every single time. So once we shake that up.
It is unfair.
We got to get in one NBA topic before I jump off.
Oh, what do you want to talk about?
As an avid listener, all right, I want to talk about we have a triple header on ESPN on Wednesday.
That's right.
Here we go. We're right into host mode.
I have touched on that. I'm ready to host through that day. I'm really excited about the Detroit Pistons, which is not something I feel like I've said a whole lot of this far into the year very many times. And we had a stat on the show the other day that blew my mind. And then I'm getting the the TV wrap.
The last time this was irrelevant, you were in diapers, Malika. So yeah, you've never said that this late in the year.
The exact date that the Pistons were on an 11-game winning streak this year, the exact same date that that came to fruition, they were on an 11-game losing streak 2 years ago. And I think that's a wild illustrative turnaround about this. So I am all in on motorcade and what's happening in Detroit. And now I'm all in on Syracuse basketball. So
all right. Enjoy it, Malika.
Yeah.
Thank you for stopping by.
Bye.
All right. That was Friendsgiving. I hope you enjoyed it. If you made it to the end, bonus points for you on your Hoop Collective rewards system, which I just made up. Thank you to Jamal Collier, Bobby Marks. Not thank you to Dave McMiniman. He was scheduled to be on it, but then he didn't show up so he could go to the Syracuse game. Thank you to Malika Andrews. Thank you to Ohm Youngmisuk. Thank you to Michael Corleone Wright. Thank you to Anthony Slater. Thank you to Vince Goodwill. Thank you to Tim Bontemps and Tim MacMahon. And a special thank you to Jackson for putting it all together and skipping a Syracuse game, because I think there's one going on right now as we're recording this, and I think he's just missing it. And thank you for spending your time with us, and we will talk to you next week.
I hope McMiniman really enjoyed that Syracuse loss. Adios, amigos.